Here's what he's actually saying here. I would be such a bitch about it after I did it that you would never not live in the guilt trip that I would put you in afterwards.
I would make sure you felt horrible about it. I know
Always.
that sounds bad, but yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, that is what he's saying.
Yeah, it really is. Not Superman's finest moment.
And we're on.
Hey, welcome to Comic Dissection, our intersectional leftist lens comic book club, where every 2 weeks we take you into some comic universe and make you feel bad about it.
Oh, that's not what we do. That is a bad description.
I kid because I love. No, but we talk about it through an intersectional leftist lens, which some things hold up better than others, I'll say then.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of what we read in this first one that we're going to talk about, there need more women writing.
Dude, the first page got 2 women. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, writing stories at these major publications. And we'll get into it as we get further into this one. But I have opinions a little bit about this.
You don't think Mike or Bill or David or Dennis? Yeah, there's a lot of dudes there.
Yeah, I could tell from reading the story. I actually didn't have to look at who wrote it to be like, this was a bunch of men.
Yeah, well, you don't want women appropriating your Superman. That's what we have Wonder Woman for.
Then there shouldn't be any women in it. Here's the thing.
In a world without women.
If you want to write a story just about dudes and dudes' opinions on stuff.
Dudes doing dudes.
You could. Well, I like those
dudes
stories.
Dudes doing dudes.
But those are different. And usually those are written by women.
Hanging out, guys being guys, dudes being dudes.
Yeah. In the hot tub, 5 feet apart, because they're not gay.
They're not gay. Come on.
But if you want a sausage fest, you can have a sausage fest. Just leave the ladies out of it.
You can't leave the ladies out because...
No, you got to write them poorly instead. That's what we're going to do. We're going to write them poorly.
A lady doctor.
And destroy their agency.
Look at that. Lady doctor. Boom. Just saying. What are we talking about again? Oh, we should tell people. Hi. So, for this episode of Comic Dissection, we are talking about the Big Blue himself, Superman, the archetypical comic book hero. Not the first, but the one that had he not been successful, it would not have exploded as it did.
So, speaking of not the first, but so really quick, before you picked this for our episode for this week a couple weeks ago, I was listening to Cool People Who Did Cool Stuff, which is like the inverse of Behind the Bastards, which is a podcast on Cool Zone Media ran by Margaret Killjoy or Magpie Killjoy. I love her stuff.
Killjoy.
Yes.
What an ironic name for a person out to make a podcast that has a good time.
It's a really cool because she does a lot of like leftist history or like revolutionary history about different revolutionary figures or different times in history where like leftists and communists and anarchists, mainly anarchists, did cool stuff.
Gotcha.
She's single-handedly fueled my love for Lucy Parsons, and she's someone who the stuff she talks about, I'm like stealing all of these people and characters and places to put in my book. So like I love it. It is like the inverse of Behind the Bastards. If I want even if the story ends badly, if I want cool and inspirational people, I'll listen to cool people who did cool stuff.
Fair.
But she was talking about how Superman is based on John Henry. For those who don't know, John Henry is an American folk hero.
Still a working man.
He's an African freedman who is said to have worked as a steel driving man, tasked with hammering drills into rocks. Tasked with hammering a steel drill into rocks to make holes for explosives to blast for railroad tunnels. He was based on a real man who was forced to work in a chain gang. And she has like a 2-parter on John Henry to get like all of that if you want to listen to it. He was a popular folk hero, so the Communist Party started using him in propaganda. working for like the working class for black men and stuff.
Yeah.
And the mainstream really loves to steal black culture. So they portrayed him as this really big, heavily muscled dude. And one of the consequences of this John Henry communist propaganda is that he became a icon for multiracial power against the fascists in the 1940s. And Jack Kirby, Joe Shuster, and Henry Siegel grew up seeing John Henry portrayed as this. So when they were drawing their comics, they drew Captain America and Superman based off of the same kind of model as John Henry. And that's actually how Superman and Captain America came to be.
Nice. I will tell you, they also, in the BioShock games, you have this underground faction that's trying to take over the main faction, and the art that they use for their underground revolution is very John Henry-esque. They have these Who is Atlas things with like a, the dude with his arms on his fucking thighs.
The pose,
with
the
his
Superman
fucking
pose.
12 pecs shooting to the moon. Fucking super pecs. Yeah, absolutely. But yes, and before Superman does get, kind of to lead off of what you were saying, he gets, I don't want to say more credit than he deserves, because it's kind of like, if you do it 5 times and the 5th time it's successful, that's the one that people remember. And in the comic book world, there were these types of characters before Superman. But Superman was the one that hit it big. He was the one that made it. He was the one that ensured comic books survival in a time when they might not have otherwise, and ended up maintaining the best-selling comic rights. Like, he was the top of the totem till, I don't know, the 1980s or something.
Yeah.
And first one was published in 1938. So, like, for, like, almost 50 years, he was at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And
that makes sense.
Yeah, first issue was April 18th, 1938. Writer was Jerry Siegel. Artist was Joe Shuster. And like I said, a lot of the archetypes that you consider comic book superheroes, at least American comic book superheroes, extraordinary abilities, outlandish costume, a code name or an alternate identity, fights villains and criminal behavior. He was the guy that started that. Yeah. And he fought everyone from Nazis to the KKK to corrupt businessmen to criminals to your typical costumed psychos, which is obviously my favorite, which is the 4 comics we read today, to delve into some of his lesser-known Looney Tune characters. One in particular who insists he is actually a Superman villain, but fits almost more into the Batman mythos, the Toy Man, who I'm excited to talk about. But yeah, so this archetypical guy made by Jewish people living in New York City, kind of doing another take on the immigrant story of a man from another world who comes down and has to incorporate himself into this culture while maintaining memories of home. Like,
the idea
his fortress of solitude
of an immigrant fighting for truth, justice, in the American way has a specific irony I don't think can be ignored.
It's very much like, here's the thing. There's a Don Henley song lyric that I love. We've been poisoned by these fairy tales, and I use it all the time. But a lot of the people that came to America, they were looking for that exact thing. The truth, the justice, the American way. Like,
if you ignore all the colonialism of it, of the American, in quotation marks, way, I don't think the notion of the story that we're told of, like, America being a land of immigrants. Who better than an immigrant I'm saying who better than an immigrant to like be the pinnacle of that, though.
Yes, absolutely. And also,
granted, the story's false, but or selective. Maybe
it's
not false.
Yeah, it's not false. It's selective, and it's also the aspiration. Right. It's not. It's not. It's what America could be if we get our shit straight. It's what the world could be if we get our shit straight. Like, there's nothing wrong with truth or justice. If those are great. Those are high moral plateaus to aspire to.
That's why
the American way
calls them.
And the American way is vague enough that it can mean whatever the fuck you want it to mean.
Facts.
And that might be where the problem comes in.
Yeah, could be. Things that are ill-defined are problematic.
Absolutely. You can use those to take in any direction you want. Because there are people that came here because they were escaping hardships and prejudices where they were coming from. And there's people that came here because they heard the fucking roads were made of gold and they could make a quick buck. And people who were brought here without any choice at all.
Yeah.
And everything in between. So, the melting pot moniker remains true. And the truth and justice American way, man, as far as something to aspire to, you could do a lot worse. And
it's true.
The fact that we've fallen short, I don't know. I think it breaks poor Superman's heart sometimes. I
know it breaks Captain America's heart. I've read enough.
Yeah,
there.
well, Captain America's got it even worse. Because,
it's in his name.
Yeah, and he's not an immigrant. He's born and bred in the good old U.S. of A.
In New York.
In New York City, nonetheless. Superman just happened to fall in Kansas. There's the Red Sun version of Superman. What if he'd fallen in Russia? And I would have loved to see other versions of that. What if he fell? What if he fell in Brazil? What if he fell on the Ivory Coast of Africa?
Poor little white boy in Brazil.
What if he
for Africa?
Yeah. What if he fell in New Zealand and
he would probably be stronger if he fell closer to the equator because he gets more sun.
Get all that sun power. Yeah. Oh my God. He's unstoppable now. Oh God. If he had fallen right in the middle of China, right on the Jesus. Maybe it's better he fell where he did.
Yeah.
Gray, sad Kansas. No offense to any of our Kansas people. So we are covering 4 completely random Superman comics that I just happen to own and have read and really enjoyed the portrayal of Superman. And to be perfectly honest, I'm not a Superman guy. I'm definitely more of a Batman. If I have to pick a hero, I'm more of a Batman guy. But I'm actually more of a Spider-Man or a Gambit guy. In the DC universe, I don't know what hero I would say portrays my worldview, honestly. When I look through their canon,
I'm a Poison Ivy girl, so I don't have a...
Well, if I can go to villains.
That's my point, though. I'm thinking right now of the things that we have read involving DC.
Right.
And...
Which, if you recall, we have not touched on Superman since way back in Identity Crisis. And one of the things that I liked about Identity Crisis is the big 3 were not
They
really
aren't the main
important.
characters.
Yeah, Batman, Wonder Woman, Superman hardly appear in it. So
Wonder Woman. Okay, I like Wonder Woman. There we go.
So we haven't really covered Superman at all, honestly. So I'm excited to delve into him.
Wonder Woman and Poison Ivy.
You got to type. I would say if I had to pick a quote unquote hero, so if I couldn't just say the Riddler, who's probably not really making the world a better place, maybe smarter but not better. I would probably say there's one of the Green Lanterns is named Kyle Rayner, and he's an artist, and he was really good with the Power Ring because his imagination was really good, so he could make all sorts of really cool shit.
Yeah.
But he ends up retiring because one of his villains kills his wife, girlfriend, something.
Some chick. She's not important.
She really wasn't. The writers did not go out of their way to make me give a crap about her and put her in his fridge for him to find.
Oh, literally fridge.
Yeah.
That's cute.
Yeah, right?
Love that. Yeah.
Oh, coincidence, I'm sure. But, so he ends up retiring, but he seemed like a cool guy. I feel like I would want to be a space hero. I feel like things are simpler out there than on
There's
this
definitely,
planet.
it's probably quieter.
Yeah, well, definitely on a If you do it by kilometers.
That's what I was
Yeah, a lot more quiet areas. And it always seems to be, the black and whites are a lot easier to read in space because it's like big spaceship with lots of guns shows up to blow up planet. You stop it. Like, it seems so simple.
Yeah, very straightforward.
Yeah, it's Russia and Ukraine as opposed to Israel and Palestine. Like,
we're just gonna gloss right over that.
No.
I've been listening to far too many some more newses.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my heart hurts and my head hurts, and I'm gonna go lay down now.
Yeah, sorry. Probably shouldn't even brought it up, especially since this won't come out for 8 weeks, and I'm sure they will have solved all that by then.
It'll be over by then. It's not like they've been doing this for fucking 2 millennia or anything.
Yes. But to start with, we are going to delve into a comic, Man of Steel number 53. Now, Superman's first appearance was in Action Comics number 1, and do not worry, we actually have 2 of our 4 issues of Action Comics. The the OG. Like, if you're talking Batman, you're talking Detective Comics. If you're talking Superman, you're talking Action Comics. And we will get there. But I'm going to start with the Man of Steel number 53, because we need to talk about mullets and the time when Superman had one.
Ew. I was so taken out of so many parts of this just because the hair is a crime against humanity.
It is, man. Yeah. He honestly...
David Hasselhoff. David Hasselhoff.
He does have some David Hasselhoff.
He looks like David Hasselhoff with a bad, dye job.
Yeah. I will say this, to address the bad dye job, because I think we've addressed the mullet. It's bad. But the dye job,
Yeah.
the hair, the choice they made for his hair in this, coloring-wise, it's bluish black. It's very strange. It's just a strange color. I do not like it. Mm-mm. Superman's hair in this comic is just a mistake from start to finish.
It is not. No good choices were made.
No good choices. So, we open, Lois is dusting, and she got a little Joker doll, because last time Superman and Batman teamed up to fight the Joker, she kept it as a souvenir. She thinks she's Kid Flash. She's keeping souvenirs from all her missions.
I was gonna say, this is some serial killer behavior over here.
But she touches one day she's brushing it, and it turns out that it had a virus on it, and it took her ass out, put her in a coma. And Superman is understandably distraught.
Yeah, he's not handling it well.
No, he's not, and I like it. This issue also has a lot of Batman in it, which I also felt one of the other ones does as well, because it's really hard to talk about Superman without talking about his relationship with Batman.
I've seen a lot of fan art with them kissing that would agree with you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Sure. Who could keep up with the Superman super stamina but Batman? Only straight up human man that probably could. The peak of human exertion, that fella. Yeah. He also could buy him nice cameras for his reporting gigs.
He's got all that money. He's not using it to house the homeless or feed the poor in Gotham. He might as well use it to buy cameras.
In addition to batarangs, he can also buy pens and paper for Clark Kent. Because this guy does not use a computer. He probably hands it to Jimmy Olsen and makes him type up his reports for him. So the doctor, excuse me. That was a little sexist mark there, because it's a lady. The doctor says that she's only got about 2 hours if she continues to fall apart at this rate. And Superman tears ass out of there. And of course he's blaming himself, because he scanned it with X-ray vision to make sure it didn't have a bomb in it or anything. But he did not use his microscopic vision. And if he had... Do you know who would have used their microscopic vision?
Batman.
Garen fucking Teed. Superman.
I can't believe Batman let them keep it, actually.
Superman. I wonder if he didn't tell him. Slipped it under his cape. You're like, Lois will love this. This happened in, speaking of Action Comics, back in Action Comics number 714. Joker sent it as a taunt, and Lois kept it as a souvenir. And yeah, if Batman had fucking... Superman's very trusting, and Batman's very paranoid. And that is just two of the things that cause them to rub heads a lot. And of course, if you're dealing with the Joker, who do you go talk to?
Batman.
Bruce Wayne.
You can't have the Joker without Batman.
Yeah, and so he goes down to Wayne Manor. Alfred is bringing a plate and some drinks, like, hey guys, relax, have some food. And Bruce Wayne is saying, we need to, Superman's saying we need to find the Joker. And Bruce is like, that's fine. He's like, perhaps, but are you sure that you want to? And Clark Kent just puts his fist through all of Alfred's hard work.
Poor Alfred.
And
So unappreciated.
Yeah, so underappreciated. Lois has less than 2 hours to live. I'll do whatever I have to. And I've been ragging on this artist, but I will give him credit. He draws a hell of an angry Superman.
He does do a very good angry Superman.
That dude is bulging.
I wrote down here, Bruce, baby, this is when you crypto dart the man and fix it yourself while he's out. Because he is not in a place to handle anything.
No, and Bruce immediately realizes that.
Yes, he does.
He says, yes, I guess you will. You do seem like the type.
This is when you crypto dart this dude and you put him out for a little bit.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, here's where I think Joker's going to be tonight.
Yep.
And again, this is something, if the roles had been reversed, this would have never worked on Batman because he would have checked Arkham first fucking thing. Like, if it was Lex Luthor that he was looking for, he would check Luthor Tower. Actually, he wouldn't even go to Superman at all and ask for help.
He'd have cut out the middleman and just taken care of himself.
For Superman to not, check with Arkham first.
Superman would notice when Lex called him. He was like, hey, come get your buddy.
He's just tied up outside of LexCorp from a lamp pole with batarangs in his forehead. Yeah. So, Superman's like, good, Lois, we'll have a better chance if we tackle this together. And you see them driving, Batman's driving, Superman's flying in the same direction, but then Batman takes a U-turn. Batman's going somewhere else.
Yep.
So Superman shows up and he is not in the mood to play, but these guys don't know, and they start playing.
I actually wrote down that it's really cool that Batman gave him someone to punch who could actually punch back while he went to pay his boyfriend a visit.
Distracting him.
Yeah.
He's like, baby, I'm loyal. Nah. Yeah, he set him up, distracting Superman.
And these bad guys have these special...
They're stealing some tech.
Yeah, they have these special punchy things that actually hurt Superman.
Yeah, one of them puts on some gloves and actually punches Superman, and he starts bragging about it. He's like,
which was a full move.
Look, I nailed him. And then you have this very dark, scary image of... You can only see the S and a little bit of his nose, and the rest of him's in shadow.
Yep.
And he's tapping the dude in the shoulder, and he's like, no one surprises me twice. And he backhand bitch slaps him.
Yeah, that's a thing that happens.
But while he was hot dogging, that's their term, not mine. Earl's hot dogging gave us a chance to armor up. So the other three guys put on their outfits, their armor. But Superman makes quick work of them. And he saves one to question, and the dude's like, I'm not going to work with the Joker. That dude's nuts.
Yeah, he's crazy.
And Superman's like, his eyes don't lie, and that only means that Batman did.
Durr.
Meanwhile, Batman has shown up to Arkham to have a little talk with the Joker.
He's playing cards with his feet.
Yes, he's in a straitjacket, so he's got to use his feet for everything, poor guy. Batman's like, you're killing Lois Lane. I want the antidote. Joker's like, let me think about it. Nah.
Why would you think that would work?
You gotta try asking first. I mean, you never know. Joker might be in one of his moods. Or he's like, oh yeah, sure. Wait, why did I give him that? Damn it. Forgot my scheme. You might get lucky. Batman picks Joker up. Remember, Joker is fully restrained in a straitjacket. Cannot defend himself. Batman picks him up by the throat and says, if I hit you long enough, hard enough, you'll tell me. And Joker says, come now. You really believe that?
Yeah.
And Batman throws him down. He's like, no.
Why he tried to keep Soups from visiting, man.
Yeah, because I don't think beating you to death is going to get us what we want.
I am so surprised. I want to make a note here.
Sure.
Between all of the grit teeth the dentist bill for all these motherfuckers has to be insane.
They definitely
every one of
they
these
sleep with mouth guards. They have to.
Every one of these
grinding
comics
them at night.
every one of these comics has at least one panel where these dudes are gritting their teeth, and like that can't be good.
1, 2, 3. There's 3 just on this.
Yes,
one page.
and it's in every one of these.
Mm-hmm.
There's at least one panel where we got some like grindy action.
No one in real life grits their teeth as much as comic book heroes and villains.
Has to be like
always
outrageous,
just to show them serious. So Superman finally catches up with Batman, and Batman's following a clue that Joker left him. Joker playing a little Riddler game here, saying that the answer is right under your nose, and what he means is that there's a guy whose name is Philtrum, which is the cleft in a person's upper lip, right under your nose. Get it? Who helped him make the poison, because Joker couldn't do that shit. He's not a chemist. He's a psychopath. And I kind of like this, and they've gotten away from this in modern comics, I think, somewhat. In modern comics, the villains can just do everything. Like, if Joker needs to fucking hack a computer, he can. If he needs to make a virus, he can. If he needs to, like, get some kryptonite, he just can. In the older days, they were kind of like a little... I felt like they would think a little more about the villain's limitations and be like, wait, that's way outside Joker's wheelhouse. He would have to get Mr. Freeze to make this for him, or something. Or in this case, get a scientist to help him. So, he does. But he's already dead. Joker somehow.
I feel like maybe that's why, because this seems like a diversion for no reason.
It's
in character.
I don't think Joker would have sent them on this goose chase if Superman had been there the first time.
Okay.
Having Batman there is kind of useless for him. He needs Superman there for his scheme to work. So since Batman showed up, he's like, well, I gotta go do this. Yeah, I'm not waiting for you. For once in my life, I'm not waiting for you.
I'm not talking to you right now. I need the other dude.
Yeah. I'm seeing other people. So they find the corpse, and he's got your typical Joker smile. He's been Jokerized. Got the Joker venom in him. And he's got a little note pinned to him that says, silly bat, Drum doesn't have the cure. I do, Joker. P.S. Are we having fun yet? And Superman says, you've talked to him. You must know where he is, and you won't lose me again. And Batman's like, yeah, I know. Like, I would if I could, though.
Yeah, if I could do this without you,
I would lie to you 100 times because I'm Batman, but I thought it was better.
Well, and also, I don't trust that you're in the best place right now to be handling this. And maybe, he's not wrong.
Oh, no, he's not. We're going to find out very shortly. Oh, you brought a little friend this time.
Which is the whole point.
Yeah, and Superman's getting ready to murder him. It's like, Lois has 30 minutes left, and you have less than 5. And Batman does better talk, Joker. I don't know how long I can hold him back. You can't. 0%. You can't hold him back at all. Superman is letting you hold him back.
Batman 100% has those crypto darts somewhere on his utility belt.
If he was not able,
hold him back.
If he was not able to talk, but right now he's just got like one hand on his chest, like that's like Superman couldn't just crack those fingers like breadsticks at Olive Garden.
That whole arm.
Yeah. So Joker explains that the virus, if injected into Joker's body, it'll react with the chemicals that are in Joker and make a cure. But the virus will kill Joker in the meantime. So you can save Lois. All you gotta do is murder me. Easy peasy.
Yep.
And Superman, who hasn't dealt with Batman villains enough at this point in his career, is like, well, that's fucking nuts. Batman's like, yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah.
And deal with all of them are like this. You have no idea.
They're dramatic as fuck, man.
Every one of them. Oh my god.
Now, I did write down.
Killer Moth is dramatic.
So basically, this ploy is because Superman also has this whole sanctity of life thing, and he doesn't want to kill people. And Joker knows that if he can convince Superman to kill him, that it'll like destroy some integrity of Superman or whatever.
Well, there's different approaches. Like, it might just sully his good name. It might break him down mentally. Batman mentions that Superman accidentally left someone to die in the Phantom Zone, like some issues back, and it just it almost ruined Superman. Like, And that wasn't even voluntarily killing someone. That was killing by omission, accidental manslaughter, I guess you'd call it. But it fucks Superman up in a bad way. So
I wrote down here, let's just sit back and have real talk for a moment.
Real talk! My favorite.
The heroes only have some of themselves to blame for some of this, in my opinion.
Okay.
You cannot go around when you have someone like the Joker or even any of these villains running around and yell about how you don't ever want to kill anyone. Mm-hmm. You can feel like that personally, but you need to keep your damn mouth shut about it when you've got people whose whole goal is going to be to see if they can make that a thing that you will do after all.
It is weird, like...
You're setting yourself up for problems.
Don't tell them. Yeah, don't...
Also, who's out here giving the Joker syringes? I wrote that part down, too.
He does the never mind how I got it line.
He says never mind. But I mind a lot. The fuck? Is Harley Quinn still the psych at this point? Why does he have a syringe?
I feel like the Arkham guards are so crappily paid that he probably a 5 spot got him a syringe.
But yeah, no, it's just at a certain point, if you run around yelling, especially when you're someone like Superman who has the ability to break a neck with a good heavy blow of air, like
you could scare criminals.
You don't have to kill them.
No.
It's like when Spider-Man pretends he can control spiders when that bothers someone.
Yeah.
Like, you don't actually have to be... You can lie to them. They're villains.
Well, that's not truth. And it's not true.
They're villains.
Yeah. Superman will not sink to their level. Here's the thing, though. It's true you shouldn't advertise it. And I also, while we're on the subject, I don't think you should tell villains how you caught them. Because there's always the scene where, Mad Hatter is getting ready to do his scheme and Batman busts in through the skylight. Mad Hatter's like, how did you find me? And Batman explains it to him.
It's much like the inverse where the villain gives away the whole plot. Like,
the heroes do it too. They just don't seem to feel the repercussions for it. But here... they are, because they talk too much shit, and Joker heard them and understands, I can utilize this. This is a weakness.
It does seem like a massive oversight.
Although all the villains kind of already sort of know that about all the heroes. It's like, there's always like, well, you can try and stop me, Superman, or you can save that, there's 12 people I have tied up next to the bomb in the other room. And like, so they, once you say I'm the hero and you're the villain, you've kind of established the parameters that you have to risk your life for innocent people and not kill, like, innocent. So I feel like though
that requires the villain to think that they're innocent, and I don't think that there's any, like, you got to give the Joker credit where it's due. I don't think he would ever consider himself a victim. He knows he's a psychopath.
Oh no, he doesn't. But he knows that if he ties up 5 people in a bus stop, they are.
This is true, but I think that there's a difference between my priority is going to be rescuing civilians versus I won't hurt you.
Yeah.
Those are two separate things that I feel like you can at least pretend like, yes, I will hurt you.
Although with the Joker, you could argue that for most heroes' villain relationships, it wouldn't matter because Joker is obviously more than willing to die for his art.
For a good punchline. He's more than willing to die. Also, because it took me out of the story, I just want to point out that this full spread page that you got of hot Aquaman with the hair.
Hot woman.
Hot woman. Jason Momoa is still hotter.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, this is way before Jason Momoa ever donned the gold scales. Yeah. Way before that. Back this time in comics, everyone had the lantern jaw, which I really hate, like the huge square jaw.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. The Batman 90s TV cartoon, which I loved.
Yeah.
The animated
still
series.
has that.
So good. Well, here's what was interesting about it. Your heroes had that. Your villains were pointed, angular.
Yeah.
Your heroes were the ones that had the Batman Superman had that square jaw. Joker didn't. Riddler didn't.
No, you're right.
Catwoman didn't.
They had very...
Your villains and villainesses.
Catwoman wasn't going to anyway. She's a girl, so she's got to be dangerous. She's not getting a square jaw.
If any of them did. Like, I don't think Wonder Woman had a square jaw.
Yeah, all the girls,
didn't. But even in the guys, like, the bad guys...
Well, of course, they're effeminate and less manly, so they get the...
Superman's getting upset because Batman's not letting him murder the Joker.
It's just a shot.
And Superman's like, you're protecting him? And Superman's like, you think I want to kill him? My whole existence is based on saving lives, and that's just what I'm trying to do, save Lois. And Batman's like, that's not a trade-off you can make. And basically the whole time Joker's talking, trying to, like, get him to hit him. He's like, look, butt out, Batman. He wants to kill me, let him kill me.
Yeah, this is not about you. Get out of here.
Yeah.
This is a lover spat that doesn't include you.
Yeah, like, you're not involved. And he says, I'll send flowers to Lois's funeral. You think she likes pansies? And Superman's like, I'm gonna fucking murder you.
You'll die just for that joke.
Just for that bad joke.
And we get more grit teeth.
Yeah. And then Joker's like, oh, well, who next? Olsen? Goody Boy Kent? Maybe Goody Boy Kent's parents. So I don't think he knows at this juncture that Clark Kent's Superman. I think he's just like, I'll just start killing everyone that works at Daily Planet. And Superman straight up has Batman in a chokehold, and his eyes are lit up. Like, he is getting ready to laser heat vision Batman's face off.
You're in the way, Batsy.
Yeah, and Batman, you know, as you would expect, is like, look, if you're doing this for Lois, this isn't what Lois would want.
No one
Here's the thing.
fucking asks Lois.
Well, you really can't. She's in a coma. Let's be fair here. But I love, and we're going to get to it, how she reacts at the end when he explains what he did. It is so good. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think Batman knows he's lying right there. I think right here, Batman knows he's like, no, Lois wouldn't want you to do that. And I think in his head, he's like, Lois would probably be okay with you doing that.
I feel like, and I wrote this down for the end because you're right, she does have a thing, so keep going.
So, sure enough, he doesn't. And they go to...
they leave Joker in the cell
Joker in Arkham,
alive.
and they go back, and Lois Lane flatlines, and Superman is freaking out. And we have actually a pretty touching scene of Superman super sad, and Batman with his hand on his shoulder, where he once again says it's what she would have wanted. And again, Batman, you're smarter than this. Superman's not, but you are. But then, all of a sudden, her heart starts back, and she wakes up. And Batman's like, oh, that clever little asshole. He basically says, I'll run my own test, but I think we'll find that this was all just a big joke. Superman's like, what? It's like, that poison probably would kill Joker, but only takes others to the brink and brings them back. Making you take a life when Lois would have recovered anyway would have been the cruelest prank in history. You think he was willing to die just to make me suffer? But that's, insane. Tell me about it.
Yeah. It's the Joker.
It's the Joker. I've been warning the entire Justice League about this guy. You guys never listen. They're like, he's just a clown, right?
He's just a birthday failure.
There's another really fun... it's a one-shot where Green Lantern is taking Joker back to Arkham. And he's talking to Flash. And Flash is like, I don't get why Batman's so dour all the time. And, like, his villains are just dudes in funny suits. And he's like, oh, Flash, you ever been to Arkham? And then it's the scene of him taking Joker back. And at the very end, he fucking runs out of there because he goes by every cell and every single inmate's got some shit to talk to him. And he's just like, oh my God, they're mad. And he scares Hal
really
Jordan.
Crazy.
Yeah, whose entire thing is being fearless. And he takes off running outside. Actually, I think it might be Kal Rayner, the one I like. The poet, the artist.
That makes sense. So he'd be more sensitive.
Yeah, he fucking tears ass out of there by the end of it. So Batman leaves, and Superman is hugging Lois. And he's like, wait, you were going to let me die? And Superman's like, yeah, I've never faced a harder decision before. But if I'd killed the Joker, you would have had to deal with it too, knowing I killed for you. Knowing you shared responsibility for the death, and for the death of whatever it killed inside me. I knew you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to live with it. And she's like, I understand. But then there's a thought bubble where she's like, I think? And then her expression is like, what the fuck? Why am I hugging this man? He might be a killer.
No, I honestly feel like her thought process was the opposite.
Okay.
Because it's like, he's being all like dramatic and so like
Like you do.
monologuing
Yeah.
about how hard this was for him. Like, she wasn't just on a bed that flatlined.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's more of a, like, what the fuck, man? Like, no one asks her. Even after this, he is explaining to her what she wants.
Yeah.
Which is a problem.
I love the I think with dear reader, if you see her expression, if you get a hold of this comic, like she is not reassured by his spiel here.
No, she is not. She does not feel better.
No.
I feel like anytime you get a person who gets into a committed relationship with any of these superpowered idiots, there needs to be a comprehensive death planning service that just follows you around and is like, hey, when something inevitably terrible happens to you and he has to pick you or the world, what would you be most comfortable with him doing?
It's kind of like getting married before you've talked about, like, whether you want to have kids or not. Or getting married before you've talked about, like, religion or politics. Like, this is the kind of thing that if you were in a superhero relationship, it's gonna come up at some point.
Someone's gonna notice that Superman's always saving you in particular.
And you need to be like, you know what? I understand you're, like, saving the world and stuff, but I am your wife. And you're going to have to put me in front of that, or this relationship will not work. If you cannot do that, we will see other people.
If you are the type of person who doesn't want you to be, like, the thing that the world dies for, like, then you also, but there has to be a chat that happens, because you cannot just go around assuming what Lois wants.
Yes. Oh, well, like, Superman, I love the line, knowing you shared responsibility for the death. She does not in any way, shape, or form share responsibility for that. Because, as you said, Cecilia, that decision was made while she was unconscious. You don't take responsibility for decisions that are made while you are unconscious. Those aren't your choices. No. You have no pig in that race. Like, none of that's yours. And it's kind of messed up that Superman's like, honey, I wouldn't want you to live with the responsibility
Here's what he's actually
of the
saying
crappy
here.
thing you did here.
Here's what he's actually saying here. I would be such a bitch about it after I did it that you would never not live in the guilt trip that I would put you in afterwards.
I would make sure you felt horrible about it. I know that sounds bad, but yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, that is what he's saying.
Yeah, it really is. Not Superman's finest moment.
Again, I didn't need to read who wrote this to know it was a bunch of dudes.
Yeah, well, hey, I'll be honest. This gave them a lot of redemption points because she could have just been like, my hero. But instead she's like, yeah, no, I don't think I agree with anything you said here today. And I got to give credit where it's due. I liked that. I liked that they went there. That was good. That scored them a few points for me. All right. Oh, and the last sentence of it is Joker going, one of my best gags, and they blew the bloody punchline. Oh, well, I got a million of them. And laughing himself silly in Arkham Asylum. So happy endings all around, except not at all.
Yeah.
Now we're going to take a check in with Superman number 660. Why? Because it has a almost rarely, if ever, used Superman villain known as the Prankster.
You really have a thing for dudes in green.
I have a type. Yes. And this fellow... I am also a sucker for when newer comics take an older villain and revamp him in a way that makes sense in the universe.
Okay.
And Prankster is a villain whose original MO was he just played pranks on Superman. He thought it was funny when a guy who took himself super seriously was made to look foolish. Yeah. And
that's fair. Yeah, that's
like,
fair.
I kind of wish there was a super villain that just went around making the Pope look silly, or Elon Musk, like somebody who
it would help Elon Musk out.
Somebody who just played jokes on people who were kind of full of themselves.
Well, it's like when the Roman emperors, they would walk around and have parades and stuff, and the whole time that they were having these parades where they were getting all this applause and approval, there was one dude whose job was just to like sit there and whisper in their ear like, "This is all gonna end. You're still gonna die, bitch." Like, this is all like...
Well, and kings had their jester, the one person who was allowed to just say whatever and not be punished by the king. It didn't always end up that way for them, but in theory that was the idea, was that you had one person who could speak truth to power. And I think this prankster self-styles himself as someone speaking truth to power. But he's been revamped in this story as, and I like his gimmick, he's a distraction. Yeah. If you were in a city where there's a person who can move faster than a speeding bullet and you want to commit a crime on the East End, you need Superman to be on the West End.
Yeah.
If you're in Keystone City and the Flash is running around, you need to make sure that he's in Atlanta, Georgia, looking for Gorilla Grodd before you rob a bank in Keystone.
Yeah.
Even if you were in Gotham, it'd be good to have Batman chasing down all the zoo animals that you tied big balloons to and sent sailing over Gotham Harbor. Like, so you can go rob a bank over here or steal a chemical to make a new ice gun. It makes sense. Yeah, it's a good idea for a unused or a rarely used villain, such as the prankster. So, and I wanted to do this one right after Man of Steel because he's also kind of like, what if Joker wasn't an asshole? Like, what if... Same bad hackneyed jokes, but he ain't killing nobody for the most part.
And he's not... He doesn't seem... As it progresses, when you get to, like, Nitro G and stuff, he doesn't actually seem to, like, want to cause harm. He just wants to be messing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that in a character.
He's really just trying to mess with the status quo, the system as it stands.
Yep.
He's not... He's not motivated. He's definitely motivated, but he doesn't have this myopic sense of like, here's the thing I want to change. He just wants to kind of upend everything.
Yeah.
For funsies.
He's one of my favorite tropes. He is chaos for chaos's sake.
Yeah.
It's kind of a Loki feel.
But he doesn't want to watch the world burn. He wants to watch it get covered in cotton candy.
Yeah.
It's a much kinder version of Loki or the Joker. Like, he's much sweeter about it. But he also pushes very hard on the gay-coded villain.
Yes, he does.
Like,
well, actually,
I get real Jafar vibes off him.
Well, I actually found him kind of gross at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because, so, when it starts, he's in his little under this little joke shop bunker thing.
Yeah, he's waking up in the morning.
And he's got a chick waiting on him hand and foot. And then there's a plethora of naked women statues and women in these waiting on him hand and foot in these little skimpy outfits and stuff. And like,
they're all dressed like ushers at an old movie theater for reasons that never become clear yet. That's just the aesthetic that he's going.
And it's just,
you can't be a villain if your people aren't all dressed in the same outfits.
So swarmy guy with a bunch of women waiting on him hand and foot isn't my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And I was really challenged.
Although I got no swarm off him. For me, I was reading as like gay dude that appreciates the female form and only has female friends. But that's how I was reading it. Like, and again, maybe that's on me. But like, at no point does he show any interest in.
Well, he's not molesting them. I'm gonna give him that, like, credit where credit's due. He's not.
Well, he's not even flirting with him.
Pinching butt cheeks.
It's very business. It is very business with this guy.
It just seemed unnecessary.
Well, unnecessary is kind of prankster from top to bottom. It's kind of a weird thing to call him out for. Every aspect of the prankster is technically unnecessary.
As we have established through Spider-Gwen and stuff, sometimes the way that they go, like, overboard on all of the commitments to the bits.
Yeah, they're extra.
Is something I find bothersome and irritating as opposed to cute and funny.
I love it.
I know so you do. Yeah. This is just a difference in personalities.
It will be a point of contention. Yes, forever and always. But so he's got a customer. What he, again, as we've spoken, he deals in distractions. And there's this guy named Nitro G. And you also kind of have this, like, new villain versus old villain thing.
This is like his wannabe rapper dude.
Yeah,
really.
he's this wannabe rapper dude who has the ability to, like, make explosions from his hand. So he's kind of not a mutant, but whatever. A metahuman is the DC version of mutants.
Mm.
And he's talking to the prankster.
Marvel copyrighted that word.
Yeah. Can't have a mutant. No, sir. Gotta have something else. And he's also kind of a shorter guy, so he's got the Napoleon complex thing going. But he's talking to the prankster. He's like, hey, do some distractions. I want to rob a bank. Mm-hmm. You know, typical business day for the prankster. But you definitely have these villain differences, because prankster is definitely out of another time. He's definitely an older type villain. The way he speaks, the way he dresses, he's definitely not Batman, but a Superman villain from yesteryear. But he goes in and he's like, hey, okay, we got work to do. And you see all the trouble he goes to
He's
set
got
up
this stuff planned down to like the minute.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I need a full schedule of metro activity, Sunday through Tuesday. I need weather projection, traffic patterns. I need Superman sightings, standard indices. Like, yeah, he's done this before, and he's got it down to a science. So what he ends up doing is throwing some banana peels out in front of marathon runners. Which, again, you were talking like, I don't know, second grade comedy?
Yeah.
Pie in the face kind of like vaudeville, old-timey humor. And he's floating above it all in a bubble that he has.
Glenda the Good Witch over here.
Yeah, he's doing the Glenda the Good Witch. And he's like, it's important, mind you, to put in a personal appearance. Without it, it's just an annoying mess. With it, you draw more attention, which is his whole purpose. And he's got the flower that squirts on his lapel, and when he squirts it, huge flowers come out of the bubble and just spray all the cops that have showed up. And prankster's just having a good old time.
Yeah, it's all a joke for him.
Yeah, he's like, I'm making cops look stupid. Like, I'm having a great day.
Yeah, I'm personally pro this.
Yeah. So far, prankster has done nothing to make me not like prankster. I'm like, you know what? You're doing the Lord's work out here. You're messing with people who exercise and cops. My two least favorite people. Both make me feel bad in different ways.
You know.
Yeah.
Vengeance is sweet sometimes.
Damn straight. So Superman comes up and he tries to punch the bubble because
he's got one method of handling things.
He's got a system. And it zaps him and he falls to Earth, and prankster's like, yeah, of course. Come on. We end the trifecta with the joy buzzer, except it's a joy bubble. Get it? Also, by the way, I didn't squirt water on those dudes. I squirt glue on them. They're all suffocating. Better save them. Bye. Which gives our Nitro G fella just enough time to commit his robbery. So all goes well.
He does his job and he does it well.
Yeah.
And he gets away, which is like the best of all worlds.
You don't see it a lot.
True.
Especially when you are, and we'll talk about it again when we do Toyman, but when you are just a human fighting Superman, getting away is amazing. It is amazing if you get away.
See,
from
this
Superman.
is what I feel like is the appropriate use of, like, if you give Superman the choice between catching the bad guy or saving the innocents, he's going to save the innocents, which I feel like he should. Like, that's the right thing to do.
And Prankster even says, like, I have it timed perfectly. So, like, those people aren't actually in any danger.
Yeah, nobody's getting hurt. He doesn't want to hurt anyone.
Yeah. And he's watching the news about Nitro G's crime, and he's kind of got a grumpy look on his face. He doesn't really like the way Nitro G's doing his business. He's threatening people. He's waving guns.
He says he has no charm or sense of presence. And I'm
Swearing at the hostages. Bad form, sir. Bad form.
Yeah.
Still, it wasn't my problem. It's been quite a good day, all in all. So he turns out his light and goes to bed. And sure enough, the next day, guess who's back? Mr. G wants some more business. This time, he wants those glue guns. He's like, man, I saw you using those glue guns. They look cool. For some reason, I want my guys to have glue guns because...
He gives them a name. What is it?
Nitro G and the Sticky Squad. Got a nice ring, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And
he's that kind of idiot.
No, it absolutely does not. I'm not
giving you my shit.
Yeah. And it really does... I like this comic too because it definitely, not only does it play, it sort of plays on like, what if like a normal criminal got these superpowers instead of
a weirdo with
a theater dropout.
A weirdo with a theater fetish.
Yeah. What if a normal guy got this and just wanted to use it to get some money? But he still wants a gimmick. He sees these dudes like Prankster and Toyman. Like, he's like, you guys got cool gimmicks. I want a cool gimmick. Like blowing stuff up. It's not enough. It's not enough.
Oh yeah, because that's what he can do. Is he's got like nitroglycerin palm bombs or whatever.
Yeah, that's his one thing, but it's not enough for him. Like, he's not getting the attention he wants. He's not getting the love he wants. He needs more gimmick, he thinks.
Yep.
And it's this simultaneous, like, I want to get away with my crime, but I also want a lot of attention for it. It's like, those things are always going to be in conflict. If I learned anything from Edward Nygma, those two needs are going to be in constant battle with each other. But he basically threatens Prankster, if you don't give me some glue guns and a distraction for Friday, it's going to be a big, big bada boom.
He blows up one of the dude's workers' cars,
and
which like, he takes personal offense to, and I will give him credit for. He's
and
like,
he does straight up say, I'm taking that out of your...
Yeah, you're paying me for that.
Yeah, you're paying me for that.
She just got her insurance renewed.
And he's like, I'm a little short-staffed because Susan spent all day looking for a new car. I gave her the day off to find a new car. He's a good boss. He gave her a day off to go find a new car. Very nice of him. But he looks at a picture of him back when he used to have his television show. Very different looking. Very different looking fella. I don't know if he got a lot of diet, plastic surgery. Not sure what happened there. Wore a rubber mask. In this world, who knows?
It's hard telling.
But he's thinking about who he used to be and how he doesn't like getting bossed around. He doesn't like bullies. And he's like, hey, I have an idea. Interestingly enough, him and Superman have that in common. You know what? They don't like bullies.
Him, Soup, and Cap.
Yeah, right? Got a thing against bullies. So Friday morning dawns when the distraction is planned, and outside the Daily Planet, the money starts falling. Cha-ching. But it's prankster money. And on the back of it is a location that, surprisingly is far, far away.
Look at that.
Sending Superman to go do something far away from the Sticky Squad.
That's not a good name.
It's a bad name. Like Nitro G. Do better. Or don't. I don't care what happens to you, Nitro G.
No.
You have proven yourself a jerk.
I wrote down at this point, at the point where he was threatening, I'm like, okay, so Nitro G is the actual bad guy in this one and not...
Yeah, Prankster is definitely not a bad guy compared to this jerk. He's like beating up an old person. And because he's short, he has to get up on a table so people can see him. Which I find very funny.
Yeah. Some of us are also short in real life and find less humor in the short jokes.
It's hilarious. Short people, am I right? Cecilia? No? Okay.
Just remember when you get poked later what you did to deserve it.
I will never remember. Outside, some cuckoo clocks appear. They chime 12, and the spring comes out with big gloves and knocks out the two guards outside. We can guess who's behind this. Prankster's nothing if not got a very distinct style. Anything you've ever seen Bugs Bunny do to somebody on a Looney Tunes cartoon?
Oh God, that is so accurate.
That is what Prankster's gonna do.
Yeah. Okay.
So he comes down.
We just need him cooking someone in a giant stew.
Oh man, I'd love to see it. Love to see it. It really. This is Bugs Bunny versus Yosemite Sam right here.
No, I
Yosemite Sam, short guy with his guns, and Bugs Bunny, the smart tall guy. Yeah.
I 100% agree with this assessment.
I didn't think of it till just now, but yeah, if the shoe fits, he comes down and there's Nitro G, and he starts calling his ass out. He's like, "Hey, I know who you really are."
He reads his government name and shit, and
Jeremy. He was in band. He was like, you keeping up on the xylophone lessons, Jeremy?
He uses his government name and his parents' name and his address and his hobbies.
He fucking ruins him, and he covers him in goo and some dynamite, and as a threat to kill him. But of course, he knows he gave Superman just enough time to get back, and Superman does. And Prankster's like, sorry, big guy. Not good enough you took the fuse out. One of my little extras already has pulled the fuse. So Superman has to fly out and save this dude, which he knew would happen, and he would leave him completely naked when he came back to Earth. So Superman flies him back to Earth.
Yeah, he had to fly him out to like defuse the bomb and the heat.
He didn't want any of that stuff to happen in the city. Didn't want any damage to people or property. And he brings him back, and he's naked, and everybody's laughing at him. He's like, Superman, can I just go to jail now? Can you take me to jail now?
He was so hard 2 pages ago.
Also, dude's a white dude, and he did not look white through the rest of this comic. I don't want to say he was wearing blackface. I think he had some fake tan on at least, though. Cause, man, he is pale and goofy here at the end of this. And Prankster's very happy to get out.
And he just leaves.
Yeah, he just happily, he disguises himself as an old man with like a hologram and just lets himself out. And the ladies are like, oh, we got someone from Keystone City, which is Flash's stomping ground, wants some work. And he's like, oh, do you want a road trip to Keystone? I don't know, maybe. But then he hears the bell, and he's like, oh, thank God, a customer in Metropolis. I could stay here and keep fucking with Superman.
He's having so much fun.
Yeah, he's having a good time. And that is how we leave Prankster and close out
I thought that one was fun. I'm not going to lie. Like, by the end of it, like I said, I didn't care too much for him at the start of it. But by the end of it, I thought that one was fun.
That was a nice. The next two are much darker, so I thought I'd give us a little bright spot, because that is one thing that Superman is as compared to Batman. He's supposed to be the brighter hero, the more positive. So I thought we'd give you at least a taste of that, because knowing that it's Reno doing this, I have picked darker Superman stories, because that's who I am. It's what I like. And speaking of, we are going to move to Superman Action Comics number 775. It's called it's got a great title, What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way.
Yep.
And this one, I feel like the bulk of our conversation will come from this one, because this one really does come to the question of what makes Superman Superman. And is he just an out-of-date Boy Scout that can't function in the modern society? And that is the question that is hammered in this comic.
It sure is.
But in a fun way. And it's also the first appearance of Manchester Black. And for those of you who do read Superman comics, know that he is a reoccurring villain who gets up to all sorts of shenanigans in the, not just Superman, the Justice League world.
Okay.
He is a reoccurring villain. But we start out with Superman flying through the sky. Bet you didn't see that coming, huh?
We open up on quite a bit of carnage, actually.
Yeah, Superman is on his way to Libya, where a major terrorist plot is going. And as he's flying here, he's hearing more and more details as he's getting closer and closer. This Superman is slower than Superman is. His speed is very malleable by whatever the comic writer needs it to be.
I'm going to go with however close to the equator he is. That's what I'm going to blame it on.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, it's like 5 a.m. he's at Metropolis. 8:02 he's over the Atlantic Ocean. 11:03 he's at Madrid. Like, it's taking him a while just to get over there.
He's not the Flash.
He's not. It's true.
Maybe he should have sent the Flash.
Maybe he should have got the Flash to get there earlier. But by the time he gets there, it says hundreds of troops converging, heavy collateral damage expected. The Libyan army. Wait, something's happening. Dear God in heaven, what have they done? What have they done? So at 12:04, when he finally gets there, he sees Big Dead Monkey, which is just a wild choice.
Like I said, carnage.
Yeah, and the city is destroyed, and there are corpses everywhere, and this monkey actually has blood coming out of it.
They've dissected the monkey. The monkey is like split.
The monkey is big and dead. Yeah, it was wild. And you can just, I don't know if you saw this, but you can barely see Superman like at the shoulder.
I didn't notice Superman.
So to give context, Superman, this is King Kong sized monkey.
Yeah, big monkey.
And the report is saying that the Libyan army and the monkey were destroyed, and destruction. Tons of destruction, lots of people killed. And we cut back to the Daily Planet, where Jimmy Olsen is very upset because of the poor writing of the Star, which is like the Inquirer version, Metropolis's version of the sensationalist rag.
Yeah.
Whereas Daily Planet's supposed to be the good paper.
The New York Times of it all.
Would it be wrong if every single person who worked at the Star was taken out back and shot? And then he reads the headline. I'm like, yeah, Jimmy, you're not overreacting. At 12:04, Tripoli shook and gave birth to 4 small gods called the Elite. Someone get me a bucket and ammunition, please. Yeah. And their boss is like, they sure managed to name drop that Elite name, didn't they? Seems like some calculated PR. And we get a shot of Clark, and he is not pleased. He's got his grumpy face on. Yeah. And we meet Jack Ryder, who is the mudslinger of Metropolis.
Just to comment on how alike all of these men look, at first glance, I thought Jack was Bruce. And I was wondering what
Jack
the hell.
Ryder is supposed to look like Bruce. They are wearing the same glasses and have the same hairstyle. Like, they are supposed... Jack Ryder is supposed to be a slightly messier Clark Kent, like in dress. And he's supposed to look a lot like him, but he is like... He is the worst of reporting. You know, he's the person that follows Princess Di till she drives her car off a cliff and doesn't think anything bad about it.
Cool.
Yeah, he's
like him already.
He is that guy. And unfortunately, because in modern times you cannot afford to actually have real news unless you're splitting it with everybody, him and the Star are splitting their time with this equipment. So when he shows up, he's like, yeah, get off of this. We paid for half of this airtime, so now it's our turn. And Clark is kind of in his face about it. And him and Jack are having their fight. And it's the first of what we're going to hear many times. The fight of, oh, yeah. If Superman had showed up, he would have done it without bloodshed. And Jack Ryder's like, yeah, he would have. And then in 3 months, all these people would be free and doing the same thing again.
Yep. Which is not untrue.
Yeah, the Age of Superman is over. Viva the Elite. This is very much the scene in Rent. Bohemia is dead, long live Calcutta. When they're having the Bohemia. I'm sorry. Yeah, that song.
Yep. I know that song.
Yeah, the Bohemia is dead. This is Calcutta. Yeah, this is the speech they're having. And then we cut to, at this time in the timeline, Lex Luthor's actually president of the United States.
Lexi's prez, still not worse than Trump.
He's not, but he is so presidential, it kind of hurts. Because he's like, we're going to do a wait-and-see approach. If we're lucky, they'll kill each other. In the meantime, release some statement condemning violence in all its horrible forms, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, we'll see who's standing when the smoke clears. And he's excited about what he sees because he's talking about the Palmer metahuman scale, which determines how much power a metahuman has. And he says, Miss Waller, this is Amanda Waller, the girl who found the Suicide Squad. Yeah. Making an appearance here. He says, Miss Waller, these PM scale readings rival Superman's, don't they? Miss Waller says, sir, he'd need a jetpack and a space shuttle to even consider a score that high. So whoever these Elite are, they got power. Lots of it. So we cut to the Fortress of Solitude. And when we were talking earlier about like how when you're an immigrant to America, a lot of times it seems like outside you have to put on the American facade to fit in, and then inside is where you have your religion, your shrines, your dress that you don't feel safe wearing outside.
Yeah.
Superman's Fortress of Solitude is kind of his Krypton safe space. He's got a lot of imagery there, and the architecture is Kryptonian. So Fortress of Solitude is not just a place where he goes to be alone. It is also a place for him to keep in touch with his heritage, which is, of course, the planet Krypton, which no longer exists. He even has a bottled city that is miniaturized. That is actually a Kryptonian city, if I remember correctly. That he can't figure out how to, like,
very Doctor Who.
And he they're living their life happily under the watchful gaze of their god, Superman, basically. Which is interesting because Earth kind of has that similar situation where we have our god Superman protecting us. He's working with a man named Steel, who is a person who took over for Superman when he was presumed dead for a while. And after Superman came back, he got people to give him super armor, and now he's kind of like a Superman who does machines. He's the Donatello of this Superman group. He's a machine guy. And he's talking with Superman, and man, Superman gets so mad while he's talking to the Man of Steel, he destroys his typewriter. He's like typing on his computer, not his typewriter, his computer keyboard. He's typing, he's like seeing what they're doing and keeping tabs on them. And he melts his keyboard because he's typing so quickly. He is very upset. And Steel's kind of like, oh, they're in there, aren't they? Looks like the Elite made it past your bulletproof skin.
Yeah. They got straight into that little head.
Yeah. And Superman's like, John, do you think the world's moved on? And John doesn't hear him because the alarm goes off. He's like, oh, there's trouble in Japan. And Superman's like, fine, we'll talk later. It's kind of funny that, like, the superheroes, especially the male superheroes, are often kind of given flack about never opening up to people and never, like, expressing their feelings or when they need help talking to people. But it does seem like a lot of times whenever they try, that happens. Like, as soon as Batman's like, Alfred, I don't know if I can handle... The fucking bat signal goes off. He's like, oh, we'll talk about this later. And he's off to do the thing.
Well, that's the way that the toxic masculinity works, is it keeps people from asking for help. And when they do ask for help, if there's not a weird alarm that goes off in the middle of their speech, there's also the fact that the people that they're asking for help from are ill-equipped to handle helping them.
Yeah.
Alfred, for all the... And I mean, maybe Alfred's an exception, because he kind of seems like he might be a more emotionally intelligent person.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about Steel.
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, still not given the chance.
Yeah.
Like, Superman asked a question, and then Japan has an emergency, and he has to go. Has to go. Can't wait another 30 seconds and get some good advice from Steel. So he goes, and as he's going, this huge, like, wave comes out. Mm-hmm. And just fucking takes him out of the sky. Just drops him. It's embarrassing. Like, Superman gets owned. He falls in, and as he's trying to recover, like, this group of nobody supervillains, this weird Japan meta group that's getting ready to just ice him. And he doesn't really know what's going on. Like, he can't really hear, he can't really see. He's got spots in front of his eyes. Like, whatever that wave was, it ruined him. And he said he can't hear, can't see. He says, is someone screaming? Which is, that's got to be scary. You're blind and you're hearing people get murdered. Body won't work. Why won't it work? And the last one standing is this weird ice samurai. Also gets murdered. They're all getting just shredded by... He can't see who. And then someone says, wolf, mate. What? Wanted us to save one for you. Shouldn't have taken such a long lie down then, mate. Kidding. Big fan. Really. How about we go kick some tires and tell some lies? So this is your introduction to the Elite. Manchester Black, who's got the Union Jack on his shirt. Obviously an Englander.
I called him Smokey because I missed the introduction with his name.
Man, yes. He's also smoking a cigarette. Also gives me John Constantine vibes.
I just called him Smokey for most of it.
Whenever I see a white dude smoking a cigarette, I'm like, is that John Constantine? But Manchester Black has purple hair, so he's cooler in that respect. And the rest of his crew, who I will name now real quick, and their powers. Manchester Black has incredible psychic powers. He can move things with his mind. He can make you see things that aren't there. He can teleport you with his mind. Like, very powerful psychic. Think Jean Grey when she's Phoenix. Okay. When she's at her ultimate power. You have the Hat. He's my favorite. He's this little Japanese kid with a top hat. And he can literally, anything he can think of, he can pull out of his hat. It's like a magician's hat, but he can pull whatever he wants out of it. Also a raging alcoholic. Like, in his first picture, he's literally pulled a beer tap out of his hat. He's just like chugging beer while they're talking. Then we have Coldcast, who has both electric and ice powers and super strength. He's the big dude with dreadlocks who's standing behind Manchester Black. He actually made the pulse, the energy pulse that ended up taking Superman out. He was using it to try and take out the the bad guys. And he was like, oh, sorry. Didn't know that. I didn't know you were here. Didn't know it'd mess you up too. I was just trying to mess with the bad guys. They actually had a shield. It didn't mess with them, but it did mess you up. Oops.
My bad.
And the last one's just Pam. And Pam is just a girl who has, like, got she's kind of Venom-esque. She's got this symbiotic partnership with this alien thing.
Yep.
That gives her flight, and she can make, like, other little alien monsters that she can throw at people. So, and she's got super sharp claws that she can use to claw. So these are the elite, and they are punks. They're really just punks.
They really are punks.
Yeah. So,
and I know this because I actually kind of like Smokey.
Manchester is kind of he's too cool for school in a way that does make you kind of. He is a very cool villain in a way that you kind of like. You kind of want Superman to stop him, but you're like, he's making some points though.
It is that Magneto Xavier thing.
Yeah. It's like, dude, I agree with everything except how you're going about it. Like, you've almost got the right answer.
The mutant eugenics are a bit much, but if you scale that back a little bit, we can chat. Because I'm like on board with the other 80% of this.
You make a lot of great points.
Should mutants get to live free and just minding their own goddamn business?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on board with this. Should they rule over everybody? A little less on board with that. Can we talk about that bit and do all of the other stuff?
Yeah.
That is how it felt listening to reading Manchester Black's little speeches. One of the first things he says, because they take Superman back to
their ship.
Yeah, their ship.
Which is actually alive, and they consider it the spoils of war that they captured against its will.
Yeah, it's not happy about being alive and captured. But he says, he gives a speech to Superman, and he's like, masks are for hiding, capes are for play. Villains don't share their plans before they smoke you, except in campaign speeches, or the pulpit, or in the front of the classroom. Reality is a mite bit dirtier than the sitcoms or comics. The grays stretch out farther. I
wrote the same fucking line. Reality is a mite bloodier than sitcoms or comics. The gray stretches out farther. I love that line. That says, because this entire comic is about those shades of gray and how they stretch out further in real life.
How Clark reacts to problems he can't punch his way through.
Yeah, although I'm going to give him a lot of credit at the end of this because, man, I love it when he goes full loco on these guys. It's great. We'll get there. But yeah, ends justify the means. Clever. What's next? Umbrotzen Lebensraum?
He doesn't speak German, folks.
It's the German name for their expansionist plan during World War II. It's like what they called it. I cannot pronounce the word. It's like Lebensraum. Lebensraum. So yeah, he's dropping out some old school history. And Manchester Black is like, for a bloke who sports a cape, you're not very jolly. And Superman, of course, you're getting people killed. I don't care if they're terrorists or armed rebels. It's not right. This has to stop. He's like, no, actually, that has to stop. Every time we win a battle, the hat falls down knackered. It's a repression issue, I think. I can say that. I'm a 15th Japanese myself. Yeah, the hat's passed out drunk. And Manchester Black will say he's 1/15th, just about anything you could be 1/15th, so he can say whatever shitty thing he wants to say.
He's got some issues there, but I do think that he makes an interesting point. He's talking about how Superman will, defeat the bad guy in quotation marks, and then pick him up and take him to jail, and then they get out of jail. And it doesn't do anything about the overall problem.
Yeah.
And I do think that this is an interesting kind of commentary on the notion of, sometimes you do have to stop the person who is robbing the banks.
Yep.
But sometimes that person, let me finish my thought.
Let's say robbing the old ladies.
Okay. Sometimes you got to stop the person. I actually think you should
let him rob the banks.
I'm not. I was just trying to think of an example.
Sorry.
I am not pro-bank.
I don't think anyone's worried. It was like, did you hear that? Cecilia is pro-bank up in here.
I'm just clarifying a point, man.
Hey, fair enough. Sorry, I'll be quiet.
No, but it is an interesting kind of dichotomy that he's raising because Superman just picks up the bad guy and drops him off at jail and then flies away.
Yep.
The thing that makes the dude rob the old ladies is not addressed in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And the situations that bear these problems, Superman does nothing about.
It's true. But neither does Black.
No, and I'm not saying he does. I'm saying that that's a valid... This is true.
He is on this high horse like, well, I'm actually solving the problem. It's
well,
like,
he thinks
you're just
killing
murdering
them.
people.
Yeah, he's just killing them.
Like,
Neither
does
one
that
of
solve
them...
homelessness? I don't...
Well, there's less
the
homeless
inequality
people if they're dead.
The inequality that makes people do that, you also are not addressing.
This is true.
Yeah.
But I do think that is a valid criticism of Superman.
Oh, absolutely.
Outside of...
comic book heroes in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, and Batman and the like, but yeah.
Even our Spider Gwens and our Spider Mens and most of our villains, most of our heroes, in their defense, don't really get a chance to address other things because it's like, as soon as you're done fighting the Vulture, Doc Ock's over here threatening people.
Well,
you don't really have time to open a soup kitchen in between those two events.
I also don't hold... I hold Batman to a different standard for that.
Okay.
Because he has money. I
Fair
don't
enough.
hold Spider-Man or Spider-Gwen... And maybe not even Superman. I don't know. I mean, he has a Fortress of Solitude, but I don't know how much of that...
But he built that with his own two hands.
Yeah. But...
I guess they let him have that land in Antarctica. I don't think he took it from indigenous people. I don't think there's people living there.
Yeah, probably not. But yeah, I don't... It is not... Superman, or Spider-Man is already going to college, working full-time, volunteering at soup kitchens, and
He's
being
a busy
Spider-Man.
Boy. He's a busy boy.
I feel like Spider-Man is doing everything in Spider-Man's power.
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Batman has the resources. Even if he couldn't personally make a soup kitchen, he can employ the right people who could.
And you do always hear about, the Wayne Foundation and, I assume every soup kitchen in Gotham is ran by the Wayne Foundation.
Probably. Maybe.
I assume he is somewhat attacking because... he's supposed to be the fucking smartest man in the world, supposedly. I'm sure he's thought of, I should probably also feed poor people. I feel like punching people dressed up like scarecrows isn't the only thing I can do. And he's also, not anymore, I think in the new comics he's lost it, but he was so obscenely wealthy that he couldn't spend it in a million lifetimes. So, no matter how many Batmobiles he buys, the bank balance never goes down. So I'm sure he's also... offering scholarships for underprivileged kids and doing the
we
soup
would
kitchen.
Hope. But there's also it's not covered.
There's a little comic evidence of it, but not. Obviously, that's not what they spend most of the comic about. Most of it's about him punching people in costume.
Yeah. But I feel like it is a valid critique of you drop them off and then you fly away. Yeah. Maybe Superman could do a little bit more as far as all of that goes.
Yeah, I'm sure he could. But also, it's hard. It's kind of sensory. It's kind of like when you're scrolling through Twitter or Instagram. There's so much overload.
This is fair.
Because when you're Superman, you can hear everything that's happening. So it's as soon as you've saved the people from this volcano eruption over here, you've got to stop Lex Luthor's super robot over here. And as soon as you've done that, and now fucking there's an earthquake in Chile you got to go address. And then as soon as you've done that, oh look,
I would never get anything done.
Spaceship from space that's going to blow up the planet.
Because I would always be listening to people's just little petty conversations. Yeah. This is the same problem I had when I was playing Watchdog, and you could listen to people's phone calls. I was all the time just stopping just to listen to what kind of tea's going down over here.
I did that in the Batman Arkham games. I would just hang out in the belfries and just listen to how disgruntled Two-Face's henchmen were. I'm just up there listening. I'm yeah, they make a good point. They really should get new jobs. But long story short, Superman is not in for Manchester's Black thing. And Manchester Black, let me tell you, teleports him back to Earth, but not just anywhere. To a Superman-themed used car dealership. That feels like a kick. That feels like a kick in the balls. That was malicious.
That was malicious.
Yeah, this is what you really.
This is your legacy, bitch.
Yeah. So then we cut to Clark in his Superman in his Clark Kent persona, talking with his dad on the farm, and his dad's talking about how there was almost a fight because somebody in, I don't know, at the bar was bad-mouthing Superman and talking up the elite. And it's sort of it's an interesting conversation simply because at the end of it, his dad's like, if it comes to it, you can just beat them up, right? You can't beat them if it goes that way, can't you? Clark? And Clark does not answer.
Yeah.
And so you're getting like, oh no, he's not sure he can do this.
Oh, yeah.
And that's scary. When Superman meets something that Superman doesn't know if he can handle, like Superman's the confident one. He's the one that stands there with his hands on his waist like his cape blowing in the wind. You look at Superman and you feel safe. And Superman's like, oh no, Dad, man, these guys might have my number.
might be a little much for me.
Yeah, and that was when I really started to fall in love with this comic because I was like, oh damn, Superman's having a crisis of faith, and you see that from Spider-Man or Spider-Gwen every 2 issues, but that does not happen to Superman.
Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen are a lot more angst-driven.
Yeah,
there's a lot more.
Superman
of that.
Doesn't get that a lot.
No,
but here he's got it in spades, and then we just get kind of a scene of him just flying through Metropolis, and because he has super hearing, he's just hearing different people talking about
the Elite versus
and how
Superman.
They seem better than Superman.
Because it's this weird dichotomy. Like, the one that I feel like hurts him the most is the little kid.
Yeah.
The little kid is dressed up as Superman.
Let me get the dialogue. Kid's like, later, guys, I'm going home. And there's like, but you said you wanted to be Superman. And he says, I can't kill you, but you can kill me? How can I stop you if I can't kill you? And then the one's dressed like Manchester's Black. He's got the long trench coat that's like hanging down past his shoes. And he's like, look, you can't. So let's kill you, and then you can be someone else. It's like, okay, kill me, so I can be someone cool. Being Superman is so beat.
Yeah. I feel like that one, out of everything that happened, had to, like, that seems like it pierced his poor little heart.
Yeah, that one hurt him the most, I think. And then there's one where the lady says, I don't feel safe with those people running around. She's talking about the Elite. Mm-hmm. And her friend says, did Superman avenge little Poopsie when she was eaten by the Joker? I assume that was her last dog. She says, well, no, he had diplomatic immunity. She said, wouldn't you have felt better if the nice menagerie girl had one of her beasties turn Joker into Kianish? She's like, well, why, yes, I would. So the diplomatic immunity thing is a reference to when Joker killed, or supposedly killed, Jason Todd, and it turned out he hadn't. That happened over in the Middle East in some fictional country. That Joker then became the... not a fictional country. Where was it? It was actually a Middle Eastern country. Very, very badly handled this whole thing. But then Joker became their, like, ambassador. And so Superman couldn't get him because he had diplomatic immunity, and it was a whole thing. So it's kind of funny. They make a little reference to that. Like, while Joker was there with diplomatic immunity, he ate this lady's dog. Ridiculous. So we cut to Superman. He's fighting the Men in Black. This very funny offshoot. There's Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones wannabes.
Yep.
And he stops them. And he's doing this in front of the Elite to kind of show them, hey, this is there's ways to do this without killing people.
Which I feel like it's not that they don't know that.
Yeah, that's exactly what they say. Like, Black's like, well, you sure does, didn't you? Like, they had never thought of that. And then the Hat's like, we're not hitting anything. Man, I could be watching Montel. Like, I don't even want to be here. Shouldn't even came to work today. And Coldcast is like, chill, Hat. We're making an example. And then Manchester Black basically explains that the people that you got are going to be taken to a space prison. But it won't actually be a space prison. It'll be a work release program where they'll end up making weapons for other bad guys to come and do other bad things. Like, you don't follow up on this stuff like you ought to. And it's like, you know what? If it comes to that, I'll stop them again. If they give the weapons to someone else, I'll stop that person. Like, I'm not going killing them still. You're not going to convince me that killing them's not the answer. And they're like, well, you're not going to convince us that killing them,
is
like
bad.
letting them live, is not the answer. It is the answer. And Black is like, damn, you Americans like to hear yourself yap, don't you? Hat, tell the streets to follow them all, then rain acid on their families. That ought to send a message. And Hat's like, aye, Captain Blight. And Superman straight up punches the Hat, like knocks the shit out of him to stop him from killing their families and everyone they know. And then there's a face-off between him and Black. Nobody speaks for a couple panels. And then Black says, "Thanks for the just cause, mate. If you're not part of the solution, etc., etc. Tomorrow." And he leaves. So we got us a showdown.
Soups and Spider-Gwen both went to the same idiot school of hero fighting where they think they have to do everything on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, which Lois is getting ready to call him out on.
And Lois gets points for being the voice of reason.
Lois gets a lot of points here. Like, this whole conversation, Lois is just scoring. The scoreboard's going up.
Yeah.
Soups does not have answers for any of this.
Nope.
So she's like, "When?" He's like, "Dawn." I guess they like the drama of that. She's like, "Clark, when I ask you this, I'm asking you as Mrs. Clark Kent, okay? Not as an enlightened reporter / activist / whatever. Why do you have to do this? Why can't you call the JLA or the New Gods or someone?" And he says, "The elite didn't take the fight to the JLA or the New Gods or someone. They wanted me."
And you just got to give them what they want. You know, we over here servicing the bad guys.
Even better than that, Lois is like, "No, you went to them." And then there's just a scene of them looking at each other. She's kind of giving like, "Tell me I'm wrong." And he can't. He's like, "I guess you're right. I did. I did." And there's a little stutter there. He's like, okay, I did.
Yeah.
She's like, "So
if you want to be technical about it,
maybe."
I guess.
He's like, "No." She's like, "Clark, last week they split a Neptune moon in half. A moon."
Yeah.
He's like, "They're perverting everything I've spent my life fighting for, killing people and laughing." She says, "Manchester Black can punch a hole in a mountain by thinking. And the Hat," he's like, "they have no concept of human rights." And then she says, "I think they can beat you." That's got to be heartbreaking. Your wife doesn't believe in you. "I think they can beat you."
Here's the thing. She is just telling him the truth.
No, I mean, here's the thing. I ain't mad at Lois.
Okay.
I ain't mad a bit at Lois. But I also got to imagine that broke Clark's heart. Like, he has saved Lois a million times. And she's like, "I don't think you can come out of this one, Big Blue. I think they got your number." And this entire conversation has a bunch of silence panels inserted,
Yeah.
and they're put in perfect places. Because the next scene is just him holding her head on his chest and them not talking. Because that would hit him. That would shut him up for a minute.
Well, he also doesn't think he can beat them. When his dad asked, he was kind of like...
Well, that's why I think that kept him from getting more upset. He's like, "Yeah, you and me both, Lois." But he says, "I heard a child tell his friend that he wanted to be in the elite because it would be fun to kill bad guys. Fun to kill. People have to know there's another way, Lois. They have to hear a voice of compassion and faith instead of spite and anger. They have to see that someone believes in humanity strongly enough." And Lois says, "To die for them." And then you just have 3 scenes of them just lying in bed, silent. Because Clark, he doesn't know. He does not know how this is going to play out. He's got a plan, and you'll see it's a damn good plan, but so much could have gone wrong, you know? Mm-hmm. He leaves her a letter and goes out to face him at dawn.
Minus points to Soups for leaving in the middle of the night like a runaway dad.
Couldn't
like,
say goodbye.
He's
just going out for cigarettes.
Yeah, we just gotta go get some milk at the corner store.
I'll be back, honey.
Yeah.
I wonder, and this is pure Reno headcanon, but I wonder if he had woke her up, if he might have stayed. Like, if he wouldn't have had the strength to leave, if he had faced her and said goodbye for what might have
just
been
makes
the
him
final
a
time.
coward.
Oh, no. I don't think that makes this the right choice. I just think it might be why he did it. He left her alone because he knew if he woke her up. You saw all those silences in the bedroom scene. Like, she could have talked him out of this if he had woke her up that morning, I think.
Which, I mean...
Or not out of it, but out of, like, calling in the whole JLA to help on this. Which, again...
I swear... As mad as it made you when Spider-Gwen did it,
yeah.
I feel like I felt
I'm
that
not
same...
happy here either.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I feel that same frustration.
Just bring Green Lantern in. Just have a dude
You're
in
on
the background.
a team, motherfucker!
Yeah. But Like, they didn't challenge Green Lantern's way of thought. Like, they sort of did. Like, Green Lantern also doesn't want to kill people. Like, you could justify bringing in Batman.
Which
Batman
one
don't
of
like
them?
killing people.
Which one of them are okay with killing people?
Yeah.
Leave them out.
Yeah. The Punisher can't come to this party. He's in another universe anyway.
Just leave out the ones who are okay with killing.
So,
I still feel like you'd have a very big team.
Yeah.
You are not alone in this. You ain't special.
You are alone in this, but only because you chose to be.
But I mean, really though, he's not alone in this. You are not special.
And here's the thing: I will also say this: Superman. This is a rare lapse in judgment for him. Superman's way quicker to go to the team than Batman is, or even like Aquaman. Aquaman's fucking the king of Atlantis. He often won't ask for help, but like Superman's always like. Black Lightning could help me with this. He does electrical shit, and this is an electrical problem. Let me go get it. Like, he's
the dude who calls in the electrician when the thing's broke.
Yeah, as soon as it breaks, he's like, I'm not an electrician. Green Arrow's probably like, I think I can fix it, and like shocks himself. But yeah, Superman will usually call in help, but this, it's like Steele said, they got under his skin a bad way.
Yeah.
So
they got in his head.
Yeah, they show up in their spaceship, and they're like, some people just have no sense of theater. Time to wake up, little man. The dream is over. So the whole time he's been calling Superman Dream, because the world that Superman believes in doesn't really exist, according to Manchester Black anyway. And Superman, of course, is like, well, not here. City, full of people, yada, yada, yada. Of course not. And Manchester Black's like, oh, last wish, brilliant. Not here, then. We'll patch the game through to interested parties. So they've got like cameras around. They're filming this for prosperity. And he flicks his cigarette into Superman's chest, and he warps them all away. And Lois is standing there holding his letter, which we never get to find out what it says. I would like to have known. Saying, damn you, Clark. She agrees with you, Cecilia.
I think she's right.
Yeah. Yeah. So they go to this planet where there's a giant dead alien fetus. That's
I wrote dead alien baby.
Yeah, dead alien baby is dead alien. Where the elite had one of their first major victories, stopping this alien. And when they talk about it, they basically killed this one. They killed this baby to convince the other aliens not to show up. They murdered a child to be like, yeah, stay out of our neighborhood. So, like, they're kind of fucked up. Yeah, very Magneto in the way that they're like, okay, this is too much. And Superman's like, I've tried to reason with you. I've tried to show you there's another way, the path of violence you've chosen. I'm begging you to help me in this without further bloodshed. Stand down, come quietly with me, and be judged for your crimes. And maybe we can all get out of this in one piece. And then there's a shot of Manchester Black just kind of sitting there. And then he psychically throws Superman through like 6 mountains.
Yeah.
And the fight is on. A bunch of Pam's bat creatures start attacking him. He's trying to fight them off. She comes in, gets a shot over him. The Hat, very stylishly, drops like an Aztec wall on him.
Yeah.
Does his hat trick. He gets out, and he is bleeding, and he is hurt. And he's bleeding in the head because Manchester Black is messing with his mind. He's squeezing the veins in his brain and causing him basically to have a stroke. He says, you're forgetting words, reliving life experiencing, smells, random taste. Funny, isn't it? Years of truth, justice in the American military, commercial, right-wing way. And in the end, you're a spastic, twitching to death for my amusement. Hysterical. Cold cast. Think cracker, Watts. Your grandfather's back raw with hickory welts. Don't worry, I can say that. I'm a 15th black. So, Manchester Black losing his charm as we go on, I would dare say.
Yeah.
But Cold Cast does that. He blows Superman to kingdom come. And all they have left is his cape. And Manchester's like, how is it that no matter how badly you massacre one of these thong and blanket types, some shred of their undies still survives the blast? Hat's pulling out some champagne for everyone because, yeah, they won. But suddenly they hear a voice. I finally get it now. Thank you. And the Hat's like, what the hell was that? The voice keeps talking. I've made the mistake of treating you people like people. And Hat's like, I repeat, what the hell? Manchester says, shut it. And Pam says, I can't smell him. The scorched air, no sonar. But now I understand better. I understand what you are, the voice continues. And how to deal with you. And Pam's like, ow, something bit me. And Manchester's like, bit you? And then she just implodes.
Yep.
And Manchester's like, something poison, something wicked rare. A menagerie has a very precarious relationship with the sim beast. Turned the zoo into a toxic pit. The gate burst open. So Superman, like, at super speed, just did a drive-by injection and injected Pam with something that just blew her away. And they're like, okay, you killed one of my team. We're going to destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman, like, spins around and, like, makes a tornado, basically. And Cold Cast keeps him and Black safe. And he says, Hat's rune field protects him from physical damage, and we're locked down. And Manchester's like, mate, the wind is clocking in at 500 miles a minute. His body may not be taking any hits, but his lungs just collapsed from the vacuum. Filthy rot. He thought this through. So Hat's now also dead. And Manchester's freaking out.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're trying to find him, and Manchester's actually carrying his last teammate, Coldcast, but then Coldcast is just ripped out of his hands. He took a trip into space at Mach 7. This is Superman, obviously, talking. If you had super hearing, you'd hear a pop in 10 seconds. And Manchester's like, you killed my team. I'm going to liquefy your damn alien pancreas. And Superman finally shows up and says, tell me, how does it feel knowing that everything you thought you had has been taken from you? How does it feel to have your flaws exploited, to be deconstructed? How does it feel to watch your dreams die? And Manchester's like, I'll show you, you self-righteous hypocrite. And he tries to pop Superman's brain again, and nothing happens. And Superman used his laser vision to lobotomize Manchester Black like a boss. He found the abnormal growth in Manchester's brain that gave him all these powers and just laser scalpeled it out.
There are some things worse than death.
Yeah. And Manchester is like, what the fuck?
He starts crying.
He starts crying. And he's like, well, at least it was caught on film. And Superman's like, yeah, they watched me do things your way. But guess what? I didn't. Your friends are over there unconscious. Like, and I just, like, gave you basically a head cold. And by the time you recover your powers, you'll be in one of those nice little things that keeps you from using your powers. Sorry about that. Sorry about your damn luck. And Manchester's like, well, you should have killed us. Because as long as my heart is beating in my chest, I'll come after you. You pointy twit. That's some British insult
Paunchy
there.
twit.
Paunchy twit. You think this is over, you're living in a bloody dream world. And Superman's like, you know what, Black? I wouldn't have it any other way. Dreams save us. Dreams lift us up and transform us. And oh my soul, I swear until my dream of a world where dignity, honor, and justice become the realities we all share, I'll never stop fighting. And he just leaves Manchester Black and his crew. And that is the end of Action Comics 775. Which, man, what a fucking, like, whew. Superman was terrifying there. Like, watching him go full kill, like, using his powers. And it brings that old question of, like, when you're that powerful, it takes that much more work to be gentle and to be kind and to not be a Manchester Black. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed that comic and its way of handling that situation. Like, I think, all in all, it was a very good way to examine Superman's way of thinking and, like, his mindset.
It's very much it's kind of like I think it's kind of the difference between the world that we live in and the world that I'd like to live in, because Superman, I think part of the problem from a realistic standpoint, and, like, I liked Manchester Black.
Mm-hmm.
He is one of the villains, much like Magneto, that, like...
He made a lot of good points.
He made some very good points.
Yeah.
But I think part of the thing is... So, like, I wrote down here, the thing with Smokey is that... The thing with Smokey that I dislike is that he does relish in the murders. He relishes in his destruction.
Yeah.
And I think that that's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But on some level, like, I think... That, like...
You should enjoy your work.
Hey. No, it's just, on some level, like, I think that, like, homophobia won't die until the homophobes do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it would be nice if you could just combat them with enough love and compassion that they would change.
Yeah.
But there are some people for whom change is not something that they're capable of.
It's true.
And so... that hate won't die until that person dies.
But you also don't know, you never know who's in that camp.
That's
a lot
true.
of the hope of Superman is
or
that...
Spider-Man, because he does that too.
Or most of these heroes. Is
but
that
the thing
if
is...
you kill them, that they never get the chance to see that better way. Like...
And that's true, but Superman is also indestructible.
Oh yeah, he's safe from this in a way. Most of these superheroes are safe from this in a way that you and me aren't.
Yes, and then the person that is harmed by the homophobia or the transphobia or the racism or any of the other isms are not.
Yeah.
And I do think that for someone like Superman, it's a little bit easier. Mm-hmm. And you're right, great power.
It is both easier and harder. Yeah.
It's a little bit easier to be above it all when...
You're literally above it all?
You're literally above it all.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, like... You're right.
In the same way it's easier to pull yourself up by your bootstraps when you're already rich. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, like when you're already...
There's a reason why a lot of those Silicon Valley founders already had money and they... only got a small $1 billion loan from their parents.
Yeah.
But no, it's because I do think that there are points, and again, Manchester isn't the right person to lobby a lot of these complaints.
You can agree with some of his points and not agree with his execution.
Yes.
Literally, pun intended, his execution.
Yes, both.
Yeah.
Both ways. But no, it's one of those, I didn't fully disagree with a lot of what he said.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, and this is something we've discussed before, I don't always necessarily disagree with violence.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on the situation. I'm not cool with blanket statements in any direction.
No.
But,
well, that's another thing. Like, the argument that they end up having is, for these comics, it is deeper than most, but it is still relatively simplistic.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's, do we kill criminals or do we not? Like, again, we're not addressing any of the things, any of the world ills that create these criminals in the first place.
The problem with Manchester Black is the relishment of it, though, because like I said, I do think to a certain extent a lot of the societal issues we face won't change until the people change, and some people can't change, so they won't change until those people are gone.
Yeah.
But I do think that is sad. It is fundamentally sad that some transphobes cannot stop being transphobes. It's fundamentally sad that racists can't stop being racist. Like, that isn't...
Well, especially when you know that is taught behavior. It is a lifetime of poisoning that led someone there. And I'm not going to say it's not their fault, because that is not accurate. But it is... Yeah, it's sad. It's sad that they hadn't been raised in a different situation.
Yes.
With a different set of beliefs that would have kept them from going down this road. Yes. Because I do believe that 99.9% of these people, if they had been raised in a different household, would not have turned into the monsters that some of them have turned into. Mm-hmm. But and also if we didn't fucking give you tons of money for saying that kind of shit. Like the ones that do it on YouTube and the ones that do it on TV that are fucking, because the financial incentive is there. That's probably something we could do less of as well.
Well, that's a capitalism thing, which is also one of those things.
Incentivizing shittiness is.
We're against here.
We could move against that. Hell, like, fuck if I mean, eventually we will topple capitalism, but if you want to keep it around for a while and just stop paying people to fuck us over, like, that would be a great start. Like, that's a capitalism I could get behind, at least for a little while. Like,
we could have some transitional capitalism.
We're gonna have to, but I mean, otherwise, I mean,
it is.
I don't see us going A to B.
But it is one of those things that, like, he does. I do think if there are instances where you think violence can be necessary, that's still a thing that is sad. Yes. And the way that Manchester Black, like, enjoys the pain he gets to cause others, that's fucked up.
Yeah. Well, and that, and also that he is committing the exact same crime he is accusing Superman. He's not addressing the actual issues.
This is true.
Like, he's
fundamentally...
He's putting...
corrupt.
Yeah, he's putting 2 Band-Aids on the wound, whereas maybe Superman's only putting 1 Band-Aid on the wound. But it's still a bullet wound, and those Band-Aids are not going to save the person, in this case, civilization, in the end. You're going to have to do a lot more. You can't just keep killing people, because eventually you're all that's left.
Yeah. That's the problem with fascism.
Amen. Amen, Sister Cecilia. You preach on, Sister Cecilia. All right. We are going to now do our last comic, which is actually to help you understand how old I am. This is also our most modern Superman comic that I've picked. It is from July 2008. I'm an old man, and the comics that I like are old comics. This is Geoff Jones, a name that has come up in our DC World exploration before. This is an issue of Action Comics starring the Toy Man.
Ooh.
A fun, much like the Prankster, a strange Superman villain who, because he is just a dude, has often crossed over to fight with other heroes such as Batman or Green Arrow.
So I wrote down here, because we open up in Gotham.
Yes, he is kept in Arkham Asylum.
Yes, I wrote down here, because you said you picked these because you felt like Superman got a lot of flack for not having good supervillains.
Yes.
And so I wrote down here, we sure are in Gotham for a lot of these Superman comics. And I feel like maybe if you're pulling Gotham villains for Superman to not have...
But he's not a Gotham villain. I mean, he is kept in Arkham. There are other Superman villains kept in Arkham, too. Because in the world of DC Comics, there are only 2 places to keep super criminals. Arkham and Blackgate. And if you're crazy, you go to Arkham, and if you're not, you go to Blackgate. It doesn't matter if you're... There's Batman villains in Blackgate, and there's Superman villains in Arkham, because it's based on whether you're fit to stand trial, basically. Okay. It's the way you go. So... the argument, and Toyman opens it up, is talking about the difference between Superman and Batman. In his world, it is, if you go to Arkham, you're a Batman villain. If you go to Blackgate, you're a Superman villain. Because the sane villains are Superman villains. But that is not accurate. Yeah, that is not accurate. Plenty of Superman villains, because they are insane, end up in Arkham. If you remember the end of Identity Crisis, that was what's-her-name ends up in Arkham as well. Even though she's technically a villain to the entire Justice League of America. But she's a nutter, so she ends up in Arkham. That's the technical term.
She's a nutter?
Yeah, she's a nutter. So we have a scene of Arkham Asylum with a bunch of cops outside of it. And Toyman, who is our narrator, is talking. Says there are many types of people in the world. There are good and there are bad. There are children and there are adults, and there are Batman people and there are Superman people. They keep sending me back to the place of mad nursery rhymes and stained straitjackets.
And he is very bitter about this.
Oh, man. This time they locked me next to a vile man who slices into his skin every time he takes a life. That's Victor Zsasz, a semi-well-known Batman serial killer villain.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'd heard him through the concrete wall at night, always counting, until he'd lose his place and have to start over again. On the other side, a voice would scream out and frighten the guards. I'm not scared of anything, he would screech with delight. Anything but him. That, of course, is Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow. He's got some great neighbors here at Arkham. Why does no one ever get Seder at Arkham? I'll never understand it. Batman's shadow falls across the place and everyone in it. That's why I had to get out. I don't belong in the shadows of the Batman. I'm a Superman person. It's a very cute, because each scene is a picture of like toys that have been used to straight up murder people. There's a cop with doll eyes in his eyeballs and he's bleeding. There's a lady who's been choked by a teddy bear. There's like little army soldiers that have straight up shot somebody. And you see a Arkham Asylum like laundry van smashed into a toy store. And then we get our first shot of the toy man.
I wrote down here, is that Peter Dinklage?
He's got Dinklage vibes.
He does have Dinklage vibes.
He's a little taller, but not much. He's a shorty. It's interesting that the obsessed with childhood villains are short. Toyman's short, and so is Mad Hatter. They're both very short. I don't know why. I don't know if there's anything there. I don't know if there's anything for a leftist intersectional lens there, but they're shorties. I don't know why. There's probably something psychological there about that. But he's in a, like, there's a bunch of Superman toys, and he's taking them apart and rebuilding them to make some guys to kidnap Jimmy Olsen, which is fun. A bunch of little baby Supermans come and kidnap Jimmy Olsen, which I think is very cute. And there's a line where he says, his name is Jimmy Olsen, and today he's going to be my pal. So that's especially funny because there was a comic called Superman's Pal, Jimmy Olsen.
Aww.
And Jimmy Olsen is always called Superman's pal. It's like a running gag since Jimmy's first appearance.
All right.
He's Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. So Toyman, unknowing that, is like, yeah, today he's going to be my pal. Like, no idea.
Mercy.
Perfectly mimicking Superman here. So he has these Supermen whoop Jimmy's butt, which I kind of find
Tie him
funny.
up.
He's like, good morning, James. And he's like, Toyman. And he's talking. He's like, Lois Lane and Clark Kent wouldn't do this. They wouldn't listen, you see. They're too old. They're adults. That's why I picked you. I don't trust anyone over 17. I like your watch. And so Jimmy Olsen has a watch that lets him contact Superman when he's in trouble. Toyman has it, so he can't contact Supes. Can't get no help.
I wrote down here, Toyman is a child predator. Good to know. I don't trust anyone over 17 is not a thing a grown man should ever say.
No, he's a child at heart. Here's the thing, like, he's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, but he also, like, we'll get there when he reveals his other toy bots, but we go to, he starts telling his story to Jimmy Olsen. He's like...
Yeah, okay, so I messaged you when I was reading this.
Yeah, there's a line where he says, I want to tell your story, James. I want you to tell everyone the truth. I want you to tell them I've never hurt a child.
And I said, God damn it, Reno. Because I have like two hard lines when it comes to consuming media. One, don't particularly care for apocalypse-centered media.
Right.
I don't mind it if you're
real.
on the peripheral. Yeah, it feels too
We're
real.
almost there, so we don't need to rush that anymore.
No, don't particularly love dwelling on it.
Yeah.
And also, don't like child death.
Well, here's what happened, folks. Cecilia texts me and says her exact words were, he better be telling the truth. And I texted back, sort of. And
Tell me he's telling the truth, Reno.
What I should have said is kids don't get hurt in this comic. That's what I should have said.
That is what, that would have,
But the way the question was phrased, I overthought it and could not answer it truthfully, and I'll get there and explain why when I get there. But yeah, Toyman is trying to set the record straight because
he didn't hurt the child.
He has been accused of killing lots of kids, and I'm not killing kids out here. What do you think I'm doing?
He doesn't seem to like adults. If he was going to be killing anybody, it would be adults.
Right. So then we go to his toy shop, which is, think Willy Wonka's, but with a toy shop instead of a candy store. Like, the toys are almost magical because he's such a good mechanic. He's so good at making toys that do all these amazing things. Teddy bears that could tuck you in, bouncing rubber balls that bounce back to you, and baby dolls that would actually grow. Like, these amazing toys.
He's good at his job.
Yeah.
And who comes to ruin it but a rich white man business owner?
Tony Stark shows up. Him and his wife are they can't have children. He mentions that. He wanted to have kids, but
He loves his wife so much,
I know, it's so sweet. He says, we wanted children of our own, but nature wasn't going to allow it, and science couldn't help. Those lines will mean more later.
Yeah, they do.
But for now, it's like, okay, they can't have kids. He says, we accepted that, and we made our store, our home, a place for as many children as it would allow. So they opened up both their home and their toy shop to children. I'm assuming that, like, they gave out toys to underprivileged kids. Like, they're out there doing good in the community with these magical toys. And a guy shows up named Walter Dunhill, who has a business proposition.
This will end well.
Yeah, he's like, look, I want to take this toy business worldwide, baby. I want to make more toys. You can help even more people. And his wife, Toyman's wife's like, oh, you know what? Sometimes it's better to keep it simple. Let's keep this a family operation. If you get too big, you might lose control of the parts.
Yeah, I wrote down here, why doesn't anyone ever listen to the women? Before I kept reading.
And he does.
And he does. And I was like,
does.
I judged prematurely, and now I'm sad.
Yeah, he absolutely does. And he doesn't end up selling to Mr. Dunhill until she is hit by a car and dies. And then he's kind of...
He's sad and overwrought.
He's sad, and he makes a bad decision in the spur of the moment. And here's the thing. If Mr. Dunhill had been telling the truth about any of this, it might not have even been a bad decision. Spoiler. He wasn't telling the truth about any of this.
I don't know if you noticed the way I was talking about the evil corporation bit, but I
wrote, using tech for military purposes, not this government, not our businesses. Yeah. So... he ends up selling Mr. Dunhill. Mr. Dunhill is very fine with him not selling. He even stays for the night. They have tea and dinner. He talks about his wife and kids. Turns out he didn't even have a wife and kids. This was all just planting some seeds for later.
Yep.
So, in fact, I wouldn't put it past Mr. Dunhill to have, like, orchestrated his wife's death. I'll even throw that out there. We have no proof of that in the story, but it seems like kind of shit this guy would do.
It does.
So... Toyman shows up, and he's like, you sold my toy designs to weapon manufacturers. And he's like, Mr. Shot, which is Toyman's real name, he's like, do you honestly believe that my company needed a toy division? And Mr. Shot, who was gullible to a fault, is like, well, yeah, that's what you told me. And Dunhill's
poor
like,
dude.
yeah, take your large sum of money and retire. Read your contract. We own it. We own you. All your stuff is our stuff now. And he's like, I want my business back. And he's like, no. A couple days later, he gets a teddy bear in the mail. He's like, oh, a teddy bear. Someone sent me a teddy. And then the teddy bear explodes.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, Toyman, you're quickly coming up the ranks of villains I don't hate. Like,
yeah, no. I was fine with
he's out here doing the Lord's work. Yeah. And, of course, this draws the attention of Superman. He's like, that's when I met Superman. He told me it was over, and I believed him. Superman never lies. And Superman says, don't fight, and it won't hurt. And then there's a scene, they did a real good mirror panel here of Batman holding up Scarecrow saying, don't fight, and it won't hurt. And Toyman saying, I bet Batman lies. And another reason I put these two comics together with the other Batman Superman comic is, yeah, he does. He lies all the fucking time.
He lies whenever he needs to.
Yes. So,
truth is malleable to Batman.
Toyman doesn't know them like Clark and Bruce know each other, but he sure knows enough. You know what? He's got the cut of that jib.
Outside of the business dude, he's decent at reading people.
Yeah. He's like, because I'm so gullible, I need people to not lie to me. I am extremely gullible, and that wouldn't even be a fault if we lived in a fair and equitable world.
He's not wrong.
Yeah. So he ends up in a getting transferred to Arkham with the prankster. And the prankster's kind of like impressed because he's like, look, you and I, we got this thing in common where we don't have superpowers, and we're going after the superpoweredest guy in the world. Like, you know,
it's Superman.
Yeah, it's impressive. And he's like, I didn't go after Superman. Superman went after me. And he goes, oh, I went after him. I'm the prankster. I don't have any powers. I don't need any. I didn't expect to win. But he's like, I'm just out here playing pranks. Now, this prankster's a little darker than the one that we met in our other thing. This is a darker comic. He says, I killed a man with a hydrochloric acid cream pie today. Which is, that's fucked up. Yeah.
That would hurt.
Yeah. He's like, oh, let's team up. He's like, no, thank you. And he's like, why do you do it, Toy Man? Why do you hurt people? Toy Man says, because they deserve it. A lot of people in the world, James. A lot of bad people who do bad things. But I'm not one of them. I wouldn't hurt that boy. So, never that boy. So what we're talking about is Cat Grant's son, Adam Grant, who was killed by Toy Man. So, at least so we thought up to this point. And he's like, the Daily Planet's gossip girl. She left not long after that, didn't she? Back to the West Coast. And Jimmy Olsen's like, yeah, what do you expect? You murdered her son, Shote. I give Jimmy Olsen all the credit in the world. He is not backing down from Toy Man, even though he is in a hell of a situation right now.
Yeah.
And Toy Man's like, I would never harm a child like that. Never. It wasn't me. It was him. So then we get a reveal. And I like this because all these different pictures are Toy Man as he's been drawn by different artists at different times. This is the Toy Man from the 60s Challenge of the Super Friends cartoon. So they really touched on all of them.
Nice.
So the actual Toy Man, not a child murderer. This Toy Man hated children and purposely made toys to hurt children.
Aww.
So these other Toy Men were relatively innocent on that account. I'm not familiar with the Asian one. I don't know where he comes into the continuity.
Yeah.
But the other Toy Men I know were just very much like the pranksters. They were more just doing crimes with a gimmick.
Okay.
Not out to hurt anybody. So this writer, Geoff Jones, was kind of like, I don't like the direction they took Toy Man, so I'm going to explain it with this idea that Toy Man... And I'm also going to explain why Toy Man keeps looking totally different each time he pops up. Like, he's tall and skinny
so
here.
He's
he
making
like
different robots.
Yeah, he made robot Toy Men to, like, commit crimes while he was lying low or while he was imprisoned to break him out.
That's what I wrote down. Okay,
Yeah.
so I was right. That's what I was guessing.
Yes. And this is where... In the last one we got where Superman goes crazy and he gave me chills when he revealed his true powers. Toy Man kind of does it here because he says, I made them all. I made them all so well. They fooled everyone. They even fooled Superman. And then really small type he says, that's what I can do. To fool Superman, who has X-ray vision, microscopic vision, he tricked him into thinking these were real humans.
Yeah.
That is a feat of technology that is, like, wow. Toy Man. My hat's off to you, bro. That's impressive.
It is impressive.
Yeah.
No wonder the military wanted him.
Yeah, right? Like, the man's got talent. So he's talking about the one that is a child killer and how it malfunctioned. And he gets very angry, and he's beating it with a baseball bat. So this entire Jimmy Olsen kidnapping was to get Jimmy Olsen to set the record straight. I did not kill children. I love children. It was this fucker over here who I made, so I sort of killed children. That's why I didn't know how to answer your question, Cecilia. He didn't kill them, but he made the robot that did. So, potato,
But it's a malfunction.
Yeah, it was a malfunction.
Because he smashes this robot to
He
be it.
beats the poo out of it. Yeah, he destroys it. Meanwhile, while he's not paying attention, Jimmy Olsen steals one of the little Superman robots that kidnapped him and uses its heat vision to cut his ropes, which is good.
Jimmy's smart. You don't become Superman's pal by being stupid.
That's all right. Well, he'd be dead by now if he didn't have a little bit of a head on his shoulders. And he's like, if that's true, why didn't you tell anyone? He's like, I did, James. They wouldn't believe me. I told you, they're adults, but you believe me. You're 16. And Jimmy Olsen's like, you think I'm 16? I'm 22, you jerk. So I love... Because in comics, people don't fucking age. So it's kind of cute that fucking he thinks he's still 16 because that is a common problem in comics.
Yeah.
Peter Parker was in high school for like 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's very funny. I love that Toyman thought he was a 16-year-old person. And he's like, I'm 22.
He is so offended.
He's one of those people that's going to get like carded when he buys alcohol till he's like 50. Jimmy Olsen just has that baby face.
Yeah.
But he gets out and he gets to his call Superman button on his and he hits it, and then all the Supermen start shooting lasers at him and he's trying to hide, and you hear an explosion. And then you see poor Toyman. It's like, no! He has a super, like, scared, terrified expression on his face.
And
you're like, oh, hit the Superman button. Superman's here. But no.
It's Batman.
It's so much worse for Toyman. Batman has arrived.
The wrong one came.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Superman. This is Joker, Batman, and Superman all over again. The wrong dude showed up. He's like, not you. I don't want to be associated with you. And so he calls out his robots.
I wonder if that like hurt Batman's feelings a little bit.
I seriously doubt it. Do you think Batman wants all these guys like calling his name? Maybe, actually. Now you mention it, maybe. I don't know how he feels about that.
I'm about to say his identity is wrapped up a lot in being the arch nemesis.
His villains
He
think
does this himself.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe he is kind of sad about it. But you know that's a Superman villain. Don't be trying to steal Superman's villains, Batman. You got your plate full. You have a full plate.
You've got enough.
Don't
Let
reach
this
for more
one
problems.
crazy.
You have
Let
too
this
many
one crazy
problems.
belong to
Put
the
some
other
back.
guy.
Actually, take Deadshot, Two-Face, and Catwoman and hand them off to fucking Green Arrow or something. Your plate is full. You actually have too many villains.
He would never ever give
He's not giving
Catwoman anybody.
But take a couple of your dudes and pass them all. So then we have a fun little fight scene with the robots. Like one of them's on a pogo stick and one of them's shooting cards and marbles out of his mouth. It's fun. But Batman, of course, is Batman. And he starts kicking that ass. While meanwhile trying to rescue Jimmy Olsen. And he says, stop taking pictures and move, Olsen. Superman finally shows up when the fight's over. I'm like, a little late, Soups, but okay. And then Toyman thinks to himself, maybe I should have teamed up with the prankster. And poor Toyman, he's begging Superman. He's like, Superman, tell him I don't belong in Gotham. I belong in your prison, in Strikers Island in Metropolis. I'm sorry, not Blackgate, Strikers. There is another prison in the world of DC. My mistake. Yeah, Blackgate's in Gotham and Strikers is in
he just wants to go to the other jail.
Yeah. He's like, Arkham's waiting for you, Schultz. Don't let him take me back there. Don't let everyone see that, please. You can't take me, can't you? And he's like, sorry, Winston. I've got to get Jim to work. And he's like, so he takes Jimmy Olsen and leaves Toyman to go back to Arkham. And Jimmy, of course, tells him the story on the way, and he's like, there's one thing that doesn't make sense. I've done a lot of research on Winslow Scott, and there's no record of him having ever been married. So we cut back to him, and he's in Arkham, and unfortunately, his neighbors are the same.
Yeah. He could have at least given him a new cell.
Yeah, give him a new cell. Or soundproof these cells. They need to be soundproof.
They do need... You know what? Fair.
Yeah. But he's so sad. The last thing he quietly says is, I'm not a Batman person. Oh, Barry, my love, I miss you. And there's a scene of the wreck where she died, and you see that she's an animatronic, and she wasn't a real lady the whole time. So that's why there's no record of his wife. But Jimmy Olsen will probably think, oh, he was faking it, it's all a lie, and the story probably won't even get out, and Toyman will still be accused of being a child murderer. Yeah. I feel bad for Toyman.
I do too. He sounds like someone who got fucked over by the government, and
yeah. And
maybe this wouldn't have happened if
took it out on everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. No, the message does come out because Jimmy prints the story, and the
Is that
mother.
An ad for Heroes.
Yes. Again.
Myla Ventimiglia's in that.
Yeah, there's your boy.
Oh, it's my baby.
See what you miss when you ignore commercials? Sometimes they're for things you like. So, yeah, the last panel is Jimmy does print. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. He does print Toyman's story. And she's the mother of the boy that Toyman killed is reading it. And she's like, oh, okay, well, now I know the truth. I think I can come back to Metropolis now.
Okay.
So if you want to find out what happens to Miss Grant and her adventures in
I was
Gotham,
wondering who the blonde lady was.
You will have to read more Action Comics, starting with 866. But that is all for 865, and that is all for our Superman story. How did you feel, Cecilia, about our Superman tales? And do you think that do you feel you have a better understanding and or respect for the Big Blue? That's not your big question. That's just your time for you to sum up.
I liked it.
Good.
I'm still not a big Superman person.
I'm not either. I'm not either. You can tell by the stories I picked.
I did find the one with the Joker, the prankster.
Yeah.
I found that one really funny.
That was I had to give you at least one bright spot. The other three are a little dark.
I feel like women need more agency.
Yeah, well, it's the reason it's called Superman, lady.
Again, like I said, I have nothing if you want to center stories around men.
Yeah.
Just leave women out of it.
You can't completely leave. They're 50% of the planet. You have to put them in, and you have to try and write them.
Then you should write them better.
I feel like, even though Lois did not get a big role in it,
now I think
in the story with Manchester Black,
now
she was written very well.
I was gonna say, now I do I do want to say that Lois is good. That Lois
and in
was
Action
good.
Comics, you got what you want. In fact, the cover is Toyman like sleeping on a bed of Superman dolls, which is very funny. And it also represents what's in the comics.
Yeah.
There's no women in that comic.
Nope.
So 2 out of 4 ain't bad. That's 50%. Look, I did what I could, Cecilia. I worked with what I had. I mean, come on.
So, yeah. No, overall, it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
And I know we've talked about this off air before, but I know you're not as worried about hitting, like, comic landmarks and like things like, but I want to, like, because I feel like, not to toot our own horn, but I feel like we have a lot to say that other people wouldn't touch on, that we would cover Superman different than anybody else out there.
No,
Superman.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I don't want to read stuff that I don't personally find interesting.
Oh,
I'm not gonna pick stuff. How about that? Because I didn't mind reading these. I thought that they were good.
Also, it is one of the charms of this is that we do pick things the other person would never read on their own, but that hopefully they will not hate. That is the goal. The goal isn't always for us to love what the other person picked, but to not hate it is a goal.
Yeah. The only thing I really disliked reading so far has been G.I. Joe.
Yeah, and
I feel like that's I even really liked He-Man. Like, I'm not...
I can't wait for us to go back to He-Man. But it'll be a while. I like to put some space between our He-Man episodes. All right, are you ready for a question of the big variety?
I am.
All right, so this is actually going to be, what do you think of this quote, basically? David Rooney, who is a critic for the New York Times, said this about Superman. He is the quintessential immigrant story. Born on an alien planet, he grows stronger on Earth, but maintains a secret identity tied to a homeland that continues to exert a powerful hold on him, even as his every contact with those origins does him harm. Now, I was with it till the last line because it seems like he is implying that when you come to America, any remnants of your culture that you bring with you is going to end up doing you harm. And I don't think that's a good way to look at other cultures. But then
let me see this.
Yeah, please. That's the top there. But it also might be that's how American treats people's cultures that aren't American culture, which is kind of an oxymoron. The idea that America is more a culture in of itself.
I was gonna say, I feel like give me a little bit of background on Krypton. How about that? Because I know that it blows up.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's an in-canon reason for that explosion. I know that
it was a cosmic event originally, so it was kind of like the sun got too close or something. It wasn't, but
it's just a natural disaster.
Yeah, it was a natural disaster.
Okay.
But I am not sure if it's been retconned to have been a natural disaster, but was actually caused by General Zod. I don't know that.
Okay.
But I think the important part, in reference to this quote, is when he talks about it continues to exert a powerful hold on him, even as his every contact with those origins does him harm. Kryptonite is pieces of Krypton. So his weakness is actually his homeland, his planet from whence he comes.
Okay. So I was actually thinking of it as like the people who managed to escape. So like Zod and like Supergirl, and so
that little village he has in a jar.
So when they said causing him harm, I was just thinking they were talking about like
some of his villains for sure.
But Supergirl would be
she
like
seems cool. They seem to get along.
She would be the opposite of that.
Yeah.
I don't think that you can boil things down that clean cut.
Yeah.
To be honest. I guess if you want to look at it as just the kryptonite, maybe you could make an argument that is...
Well, you bring another point to it because the General Zod is a very good example of your... And then maybe it's sort of a...
But Supergirl would be an example that
a counter-example. True. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it can be...
Because the thing is, like, and it's also if this is just if he's just making
he says every contact, and you can. I think anytime you say every, you're gonna find an exception.
Well, and if your point is just that Superman can't be around kryptonite, well, okay, like, good for you.
Yeah. Well, I think he's connecting it to other immigrants.
But if your point is
trying to anyway,
you've made the comment, like, America doesn't have a culture.
Yeah.
There's a book called The Invention of Whiteness, and a lot of things that I've read and listened to that talk about whiteness and like racial problems in the United States mention that part of the problem is that there is no such thing as white. It's just an amalgamation of a bunch of different things. So, like, you're Irish and you're British and and all of those things were their own separate culture.
Yeah.
But when they came over here, and after so many generations of being over here, it was lost.
Yeah.
It became...
Or not even lost. It was...
smushed together with other things.
It smushed, it changed, it morphed. Like, there are still aspects of it now. Like one of my favorite...
But there's no unified one story or unified... And especially when you start getting into, like, especially nowadays where you've got so much information and everything is so mushed together already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, and then you bring in, like, Mexican cultures and you bring in indigenous cultures that managed to survive. And you bring, like, there's no one unifying story that is for everyone in America.
Yeah. But I think it's a myth that there's a unified story for everyone in Mexico, or a unified story for everyone in Ireland, or a unified story for everyone in Japan.
No,
because if you're born and you live your life on the coast of Japan, or you were born in a small mountain village in Japan, like you will have a more like. You won't have a unifying story, really. Like, it's the whole idea that, like, a lot of this stuff isn't real. Like, borders aren't real.
No,
like,
this is true, yeah.
Mexican culture and Native American culture and Canadian culture. Like,
but there was, I think it's more of a tribal identity issue. Because, like... Yeah, Mexico doesn't have an identifying culture, but like Aztecs had an identifying culture. The Inca had an identifying culture. Like like even for white people, the Celtics were a culture.
Wales had a unifying culture. Paris had a unifying culture.
Yes, it's stuff like that where they have, even if I don't know, like you've got narratives and counter narratives and all that bullshit. If you really want to like get into stuff, but like. There was still, like, an overarching story, kind of, you know? And there isn't... America doesn't have that. And so the notion that, like, Superman being an immigrant would be harming himself by holding on to where he's from is inherently something that I don't find agreeable.
Yeah. It kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I was trying... I couldn't figure out if he was saying that was a fault of Superman for trying to hold on to that, or a fault for America for not accepting his culture. Because he's not fucking talking about Superman. He's talking about the quintessential immigrant story. So when he says from another planet, exchange that with another country. When he says, you know, I'm being harmed by this culture I can't let go of. And again, I don't know. This is why it's a big question, because it's just your opinion. Like, is he saying that America is so unwelcoming to that if you don't adopt America's values and identity, then you are going to suffer? Or is he saying it's better to go along to get along? When you come here, learn to speak English and learn to fucking, like, chase money. And, like...
I don't know. See, I would think as a self-taught Hispanic woman, because, like, everything I know about Hispanic culture is stuff that I've taught myself. My father didn't raise me, so I don't have any of it from him.
Right.
I still feel like your life is enriched when you have cultural practices. Mm-hmm. That even... Now, I mean, I guess maybe it can also be isolating. Like, if you're a Muslim who participates in Ramadan and, like, you can't go out to eat during a month with your coworkers, or you have to stop and pray 5 times a day and no one else gets why. Yeah. I can also see it maybe being isolating, but...
Yeah, it's a two-edged sword, and it seems... David Rooney seems a little simplistic with his approach to it.
I do think that maybe some more nuance wouldn't hurt that idea, so that it can be explained better.
He is also just a critic giving a review. Like, I think he was actually reviewing a Superman, like, fucking New York play or something. So, like, it was... He might have had a word limit. Might have been like...
He might have had a word limit.
Yeah. You know, you're writing a review. You can only put so much in there. So I'm gonna give him a pass here. But I liked the quote as a spur to conversation, even if I'm not sure I agree with it. And thus ends our soups days. Our days with the soup. Mm-hmm. We're out of the soup. No more time with the Big Blue for a little while. We're going to move on to what, Cecilia?
We are going to be reading Semantic Error Season 2.
Oh my God, the error is back, baby!
It's a little bit more steamy on Season 2, too.
Look at me, I'm already a fan of myself.
But yeah, that's on Manta, Season 2.
Okay.
So we get back to Jay Young and sing Woo.
It's available, yes. See how those kids are doing. I haven't seen those kids in a while.
Yeah, it's been a minute. I feel like I gave you some breaks.
You gave me a hell of it. You gave me a longer break than I gave you with He-Man. So.
Yeah.
But again, unnecessarily. I told you.
Hey, I wanted to do Spider-Gwen for my daughter, so we took a break. We did some Spider-Gwen. We did some Spider-Punk because I like hyper fixate on things when I like them, and I watched that Into the Spider-Verse Season 2, and I was like, I gotta read Spider-Punk now, so.
Fair. Yeah.
Yep.
And those were fun sideways. But
Semantic Error.
Semantic Error is back, baby. So join us in 2 weeks, and we'll see how those crazy kids are doing. But until then,
be your own ally.
Be your own ally. Do all the things. Follow us on all the socials. I'm now on Blue Sky, so that link, along with all the others, will be in the show notes.
There are a lot of links.
Yes, links for Patreons, links for all the social medias. If you can't afford the Patreon, do all the things that help people hear about podcasts. Tell them about them. Give us some reviews. Give us some comments, etc., etc. You know the drill. I don't know why I have to keep telling you this. I feel like a teacher at the front of the classroom. Like, okay. Don't talk long. Just let me give out the assignment. But yeah, to steal something from even more news, we love you very, very much. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye-bye.